Okay, we're live. Let me just quickly tweet out the links and then I'll do the intro. Ooh. Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. I'm your host Naeem, and today, of course, after Anthony Joshua fight week, I'm joined by the regulars. Jide, how are you, bro?
I'm good, brother. How are you, man?
Good. I mean, it's a good weekend to have because obviously Friday we had the AJ fight, and now got that sort of scintillating knockout to look forward to. So got a good weekend. Had a good weekend and a lot to enjoy, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Listen, like I said, it was what we wanted to happen happened, didn't it? So I can't complain too much.
And then, of course, after, like I said, after any AJ win, we've got to get Dapo also on, the big AJ fan. Dapo, how are you, bro?
Listen, I'm a cook today. A lot of things that I said in the preview, the pod that we did when the fight was announced, yeah, it came to fruition. But yeah, man, good weekend of boxing.
And of course, you know, when you got an AJ fight week and he's going into camp now with Ben Davison instead of Trainer of the Year, who better than to criticize that than Chris? Chris, how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm active like AJ 2023, so ready to go.
I mean, let's get started. So, of course, on Friday, which is again a bit of a different, we're not used to it, but on a Friday night, Anthony Joshua took on former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, who gave Tyson Fury all the hell in the world, and he destroyed him within 2 rounds. It was probably one of AJ's best performances in terms of how he's looked in quite a while. I haven't seen him look like that in quite a while, especially those one punch knockouts. He's not really known for that, but it was a fight that, in my opinion, delivered to the name Knockout Chaos. That was Knockout Chaos personified. We're just going to get straight into it. So, Jide, what are your thoughts on AJ stopping Ngannou in 2 rounds?
I'm just saying, man. My boy delivered, man. But it's just sad that people were thinking this is a 50-50 fight, a 57-43 fight, or whatever nonsense that was being propagated in the media. And these MMA fans, like, listen, I like MMA. I watch it in it. I'm not gonna say I'm a hardcore MMA fan. I'm a casual. I'll know the big fighters and I watch the big fights and I follow certain guys. I'm not some guy that's watching the prelims and amateurs. I ain't doing all that. However, people need to respect different sports. You will not get the world champion table tennis player, tell him to go play Novak Djokovic and expect a competitive fight. So Tyson Fury ruined the image of boxing in December, and it has guys thinking, well, because they think Fury's better than AJ, so that means, Ngannou, if you can knock down Fury, you can knock out AJ. It's such stupidity, and the reason they have that stupidity is because they want Francis to win so bad because he represents MMA, and they just don't like AJ. So we had guys believing that it will be a competitive fight. It was so bad. Like me and Chris, we went to watch it at our bar, and we had people trying to argue with us who've never watched AJ. They said stuff like, "Who's AJ knocked out?" as an actual question because they didn't rate AJ. They didn't know anything about him. They just heard he's chinny. The talk sort of narratives, you know what I'm saying? That he's chinny, he has no defense, no technique, and he's scared and cautious. So it's just weird. But in terms of the fight, what happened is exactly what I expected to happen. I didn't I didn't think it would be that quick. Like I said in the prediction in the group, I think I said between 8-10 or something like that. I thought AJ was just gonna beat him up, break him down. Ngannou's quite durable. He'll get tired, and AJ will stop him mid to late rounds. That's what I expected. But AJ stopping him in basically three power punches. He threw 3 hard shots and knocked Ngannou out. I'm not shocked because AJ's always had concussive power. But because AJ's been doing he's been boxing more than he's been trying to take people's heads off, they think his power's not really that. I've not seen AJ lean into shots the way he leaned into the shots against Ngannou. And one of the reasons why is because he knew the guy he's facing is a fucking novice. Ngannou was biting on every single feint. It was trying to parry AJ's jab when AJ was coming in. He didn't know how to initiate offense. He was looking at AJ, then we'll try catch AJ with his check left hook. And he couldn't follow up with any double jabs. He couldn't follow up with his right hand. He was unsure of himself. He was biting on every feint. AJ was light on his feet. AJ was like, the speed gap was like, it was fucking insane. AJ was light on his feet. It was setting him up. It was doing really clever things with his feet, like coming into range, leaning back on his back foot to make Ngannou think he's now out of range when he's actually in range, and then he'll get his shot to the body, his jab to the body. It was baffling Ngannou throughout that first round. Ngannou was here throwing his check left hooks, and AJ was catching some, but you could just see there was just a giant chasm, not even a gulf, a chasm in terms of ability. So when AJ dropped him, when I remember in the Fury fight, Ngannou went southpaw and had some success. I said to Chris, AJ's actually really, really good against southpaws, and if Ngannou does that, he's going to be in trouble. Lo and behold, this guy will go southpaw. AJ clocks him with a straight right hand, drops him. It was, don't do stupid. This is not Tyson Fury. I need guys to understand, this is not that fat cunt. It's not him. This is Anthony Joshua. Like, you cannot be doing these bum-ass things thinking you can now go south. Ngannou going southpaw reminded me of Dillian White going southpaw against Tyson Fury. Why are you doing that? It made no sense. You had more success orthodox because you had long arms and AJ had to like break you down. Now you going southpaw, you're just staying in line for his hard shot. Anyway, drops him. I swear to you, if they stop the fight there, I'll be upset, but you can see Ngannou was rattled. He's like, what the fuck did I just get hit with? The second round, AJ knows this guy is now really rattled. So now AJ's trying to style on him. He's setting him up for the counter right hand. That pull counter AJ loves doing. His patented pull counter. I love it so much. It's like he set Ngannou up. He stayed in range where Ngannou's jab will reach him, but there'll be no power behind it. So then he can now launch that pull counter. And if you see, when Ngannou threw that jab, that lazy jab, AJ automatically, before the punch landed, AJ cocked his right hand back, pulled, boom, because he knew, he judged distance so well. This is what I'm saying. AJ's an elite fighter. I hate when people try to say he's not an elite fighter. This is managing distance, knowing the range, knowing where your opponent is, where his footwork is, foot placement is, where his, like, all these things matter. And
I can't lie, yeah. Outside of the top two guys, I don't know who else fights like that. For you not to be called elite, I don't know who else in heavyweight division fights like that.
I don't understand it, bro. It makes no sense. He clocked him, boom. And the way, when he threw that punch, the way he threw it, let's say he missed, Ngannou couldn't throw a left hook and catch him. Because the way he followed through, his arm, his shoulder was protecting his chin. So Ngannou, even if Ngannou missed that, Ngannou couldn't throw a left hook and catch him. Elite body placement, elite foot placement. That's what you call elite boxing. Anyway, drops him again. And at that point, Ngannou's concussed. They could have stopped that fight. They probably should have. And then the night shot came in. And like I said, I've not seen AJ lean into a shot that hard since maybe Vladimir Klitschko. I can't remember the last time. Or maybe when he threw the uppercut to Dillian White. Like, he put his entire body into that overhand right. And it sent Ngannou into space. Like, that shot was beautiful. And one thing I always say is, Anthony Joshua, if Anthony Joshua leans into his shot, he knocks anyone out. So Ngannou learned that the hard way. And like I said, he threw 3 power punches, 3 hard, maybe 3 or 4, and he knocks him out. Ngannou should never have been in there. And hopefully, he realizes boxing's not his sport. He's made 30 million in 2 fights. He probably gets the Fury rematch, embarrass Fury a bit more, make another 10 mil maybe. And that's it. Stick to MMA or retire. He should not be boxing because he's just the golfing class and ability is so big. It was always going to be like that. But anyway, that's my 10-minute rant. Sorry, guys.
That's what we expect, isn't it, from you, especially the energy that you're giving to sort of throughout the whole week. So that's brilliant. one thing before I move on, big up Chris Welch. He's always there. He's always, he's always watching us every week. So big up to Chris. But one thing I wanted to put out, Chris, and we'll come to your comments on the in the comment section. Anyone else who's got comments, or please comment, as we would love to hear your thoughts. Fury has no power, but he's a more technical boxer. In this case, Fury is not set up well for an Ngannou because Fury is the more naturally gifted fighter, where he's taller, he knows how to use his range, he knows how to manage the distance well, but he isn't a more fundamental boxer than AJ. AJ is much more better when it comes to his basics, his jab, his straight right hand. Like I said this, I put this on the pod account. I took stills of the knockdown punches, and if you look at them, these are the type of shots that you show like young amateur boxers. Like, this is how you turn over your punch with the right hand, the foot placement, how the hips are turning into it, the exact timing of the shot, exactly how straight. AJ's got one of the best mechanically straight right hands, and he showed that on display, which is why Ngannou couldn't move out of the way, because Ngannou, he's not known for head movement. He's still on the center line. AJ's coming straight down that line. And so for this fight, AJ is the more technically better boxer.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to say one thing, Chris. You see, the way Fury got knocked down in the first Ngannou fight. How can you be the more technical boxer if you're falling for stuff like that? That was a textbook left hook, and you're always taught, like, when you after a 1-2, you raise your right glove to protect your face. Like, how there's basic stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Said properly. So for this fight, like, AJ was perfectly well set up for this fight, because this is a guy who's going to make a lot of mistakes, who's going to get drawn out. And one thing I'll say before I move on, and I'm talking a bit, I did say last week, and I put the clip out yesterday, the two things that won AJ this fight, the jab and the body work, that set up the right hand. And what a way of doing it. This is what AJ got him to the top, and he showed how he stayed at the top by doing those tactics. So brilliant from AJ. When I saw that, I was like, this guy's back, especially with the way he knocked him out. This guy's back. But let me come on to you, Chris. Not Chris Welch, but Chris. What were your thoughts on AJ knocking out Ngannou?
Listen, I was always confident from the get-go. I predicted an AJ knockout from a very, very long time ago. I didn't expect it to be so soon, but I felt like he'd break him down and he'd stop him eventually. It just goes to show the difference between MMA and boxing. Like, power is not always relative to. It's not relative across all sports. Do you know what I mean? What you might have as power in MMA is not the same as a power punch in boxing, and we saw that. We've never ever seen Ngannou go down in the MMA, and he's been hit with shots. Do you know what I mean? I had a conversation with Dapo in the chat before the fight, and I was talking about how he looked a bit funny taking shots from Stipe. And I was like, if you're going to take shots from Stipe and react like that, AJ is going to kill you. Do you know what I mean? And that's when I really thought, yeah, this guy's not surviving. But yeah, eventually it just goes to show that people don't really understand or respect boxing as a sport, because these guys have been boxing. I mean, AJ's been boxing relatively late, so at 18. He started boxing from I think it was about 18 years old. And but he's been doing it since. He's been drilling in, honing in all his skills and all his abilities to boxing. You can't come from a different sport, I don't care what kind of fight sport it is, and think you're going to be able to compete with the best in the division. For me, especially with looking back at Fury, I feel like it's damning, and it's not just a case of Fury wasn't prepared, Fury didn't have any evidence. It's really kind of, for me, it's trying to dismiss what AJ's done, because I don't care how little information there was about Ngannou, yeah? He's a novice. He was always a novice. All you know about him is that he's got power, right? And he's got limited boxing ability. He didn't do anything spectacular. He didn't do anything in that fight that would catch most heavyweights off guard. You can say that Fury wasn't well prepared from maybe a conditioning standpoint. That's on him. And that's just a damning indictment of what he is as a person, more so than
We can't say that because Fury said that he was prepared, so we can't even say
He
that.
said he was prepared. He said he had his best training camp, blah, blah, blah. But now people are trying to look for excuses for him. I'm hearing people saying that the Fury fight gave AJ the blueprint, gave him clues for what to look for. It was a 10-round fight in which barely anything happened. For me, from round one, you should have been able to determine, from let's say about the second round, you should have been able to determine, okay, this guy is biting at feints. Okay, this guy is leading with his left hook. And his corner and as well as himself should be able to kind of figure out ways to counteract that. But even when Fury started to build into that fight, it was still competitive. You should not be competitive with a novice. And that's why what AJ did was so tremendous, because he really, really put into the frame. I know there's a lot of other fighters that were looking at getting into the boxing, and that's probably piggybacking off of the Francis Ngannou performance against Fury. You're not hearing that anymore. You're hearing all the top MMA guys say, that's why boxing is boxing. Boxing shots are different from MMA shots. You can't just cross over from the sport. He tried his best. He's a novice, all of this. It is what it is at the end of the day. And one thing that I found really interesting was the fact that I'd always said that looking at that Otto Wallin performance, for me, that was enough to show how much and how far AJ had come as a boxer. But nobody else was willing to accept that. Every single excuse under the book, they're saying it was his sparring partner. Wallin didn't come to fight. Do you know what I mean? All of these lame excuses, late replacement, everything, just to kind of discredit what AJ is doing. But now that he's starched Ngannou, it's like, oh yeah, AJ's back. Like, for me, the Wallin performance is still a much, much greater achievement. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't even get an opportunity to kind of show the skills he developed from then till now, because Ngannou just wasn't good enough to have him show and exhibit those skills. But all in all, very, very good performance. For me, he's easily number 3 heavyweight right now at the moment. Credit to Ngannou for taking the fight. I'm not sure where he goes next, to be honest. Probably PFL. I don't think he can go straight back into boxing. I think he's food for a lot of guys. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well said. And Dapo, I want to come to you now. Obviously, AJ Fan Club. I mean, finally, we have a Nigerian
You're a
athlete
waste, man.
representing on the combat sports scene. Obviously, because Adesanya and Usman can't represent it, so now AJ is back and he's representing. How do you feel after AJ knocked out Ngannou? What were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, so I predicted round 4 to 6 stoppage. I agree with everything everyone said. I thought it was going to be more of a breakdown job, but I knew the fight wasn't going to be exactly that as soon as I saw the effects of Ngannou's punches on AJ. It didn't bother him, and that was very, very important, because you see, fights like this, it's very, very easy to overthink it, especially when there's a narrative built before the fight. Oh my God, he's the hardest puncher in the world. He's knocked down Fury, whatever. You can go in there and overthink your tactics because you don't want to get hit. So when I saw Ngannou, because Ngannou touched up AJ a little bit in the first round, at the start, he started off quite aggressive, and I was looking for AJ's response to that, and he looked very, very calm. He looked very okay, and I think that was a difference maker, because the reason why Ngannou wasn't biting Fury's feint was because there was no power behind whatever Fury was doing. Fury's actually quite pillar-fisted, in my opinion. So if I'm not scared of your power, it doesn't matter how many times you feint. I don't care what's coming my way. But the difference is, because AJ was hitting Ngannou with some stiff jabs, good right hands to the body, he doesn't want to get hit like that. So if he feint, he's going to bite. So as soon as I saw that from the first one, I knew, this might end quicker than I initially thought. But I didn't expect what happened. I can't lie. I did not expect that. I thought it would be maybe cagey for the first 2 rounds. Let's see what Ngannou's got. Let's see what he's learned, and then start to break him down. But I don't think AJ respected Ngannou's power. I don't think he respected him as a fighter. I know he says that, I respect him. In that ring, I don't think he respected him at all. because that knockout was disgusting. Like the third knockdown, the final knockout, he just walked up to him and just punched him. That he showed him no respect. That was so disrespectful. And AJ's whole career, I don't think I've ever seen him knock somebody out like that. Like, I don't even think I've seen Wilder knock someone out like that. Like that knockout, his body.
We've seen Wilder. We've seen Wilder do that still. We've
Who's
seen Wilder.
using like that?
You know what?
Bro,
I get what Dapo's saying.
Brazil, bro. Brazil. He sent him to space,
Brazil,
bro.
No, but Brazil got up, man.
No.
It was
How
like,
many
it was
minutes?
like 2 seconds and he got up.
After how many, bro? Come on, man.
Zhang in a manner that I ain't seen in boxing before. Ngannou was there right in front of him to be hit. Like, it was a charged up.
Proper.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Maybe I'm getting too excited, but that knockout was disgusting, man. But yeah, that just made me. I'm questioning some stuff about Fury now, man, because that is what AJ was supposed to do. That's what happens when you fight Olympic medalist, 2-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. You know, although he started late, he's been doing this, and I think as combat fans overall, not just boxing fans, MMA fans too, all of us need to accept that the science of boxing is deep. It's actually very, very deep. Like, you can't just transition and expect to be super successful. Like, the way these guys train, it's not just the punches they're throwing, is where the punches are landing. Like, when you watch MMA compared to boxing, the striking can look, compared to boxing, is not as glamorous, because you know there's so many different things that you have to train when you train MMA. You're punching, you're fighting someone expecting, you know, you could be potentially be wrestled, potentially be kicked. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's different aspects of that game. Whereas when it comes to boxing, you know, is how your hands connect to the person's face, the distance management. Like, it's such a deeper science. So I'm sad because I didn't want to see Ngannou like that on the mat. I can't lie to you, but at the same time, I just want people to respect the fighters and respect the sport itself. Like, you can't just. And another thing as well, we need to fighters need to start buying into narratives, man. Like, if you're gonna fight somebody, especially in Ngannou's position, you know, make your judgment and your conclusions off of footage, tapes. Watch him fight. Don't come to the stage talking about, I heard he's chinny and that. Like, that's not gonna win you the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't buy into that stuff, man. Watch the guy actually fight to understand exactly what you're dealing with. But yeah, that's my 2 cents, man.
Yeah, before I come to you, Adam, just wanted to say there are 107 live viewers right now that are joining us. I really want to thank everyone. We really appreciate it. We're humbled by the fact that there are more than 100 people right now watching our pod and listening to us talk about AJ and Ngannou. So big up every single one that's watching, everyone in the comments, like Richard Hutchinson, big up you, because you know he's bigged up all of us. Big up Naeem or Naseem, Jide, Dapo, Adam, and Chris. Congratulations to AJ, make boxing great again, and big up Chris Welch as well. Thank you everyone that's been joining in. This honestly, this is one of the best pods right now that we've had, just because of the fact that there are 100 people tuning in, so more than 100 now. So we really respect all of you. We appreciate all of you, and thank you for tuning in. But Adam, obviously, AJ and Ngannou, I don't think most of us expected a sort of Ngannou to sort of be flat on his back, out cold, needing an oxygen mask. What are your thoughts on that whole fight?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much I could really touch up on that hasn't been said. I think the funniest thing is, if you were to look at that fight and take away Ngannou's perceived reputation and whatnot, you would think that was an absolute tin can in the ring with Anthony Joshua. And I love Ngannou, like, of course, cliche, but the whole story aspect of him and whatnot, like, it's brilliant to see how he's come up. But boxing needed that demolition job, because the disrespect was just too much. Boxing needed that, and I'm so glad AJ delivered. The thing that impressed me the most was, I know Ngannou wasn't technically the best, but there's still the aspect of that power hand landing, and Joshua was able to nullify that very quickly with his distance management. His pull right hand as well. It's like we're seeing a new aspect to Joshua's game from a boxing perspective, I think, since he's come with Davison. He's able to stay in the mid-range where he's most effective and be defensively a lot more astute. So, and I think those timed pull right hands were really what got Ngannou out of there really quickly. That's it, really. I mean, I think the thing with AJ, he is so technically proficient, and I don't know where this narrative has come from that Fury is technically so much better than AJ. I think Fury is by far the more unorthodox fighter in the way he fights, the way he throws his punches, the way he uses his body. If you look at fundamental boxing, AJ is very textbook. So how this narrative has come by, I don't know. I think it's because maybe AJ tends to get people out of the ring a lot more efficiently than Fury, whereas Fury has to, especially in his earlier years, have to points his way to a victory. So I can see where that's come. But I think the other night we've seen how technically brilliant AJ is. And Ngannou has never had to face a puncher that's punching from below the waist, where the foot placement is perfect, the rotation in the hips, and following through with the arm. MMA fighters just don't throw punches the same way boxers do. It's not even close. The difference in the way the punch is thrown is drastically different. And Ngannou, of course, has never been hit with anything close to that, just because of the way you have to set up in MMA, your foot placement, etc., to defend takedowns, to be ready for wrestling. It won't allow these fighters to throw punches the way AJ was throwing them. And yeah, I think it was a huge reality call for Ngannou. Personally, I'd like to see him maybe go back to MMA or retire. I mean, he is no spring chicken when you look at his age. And I think we needed that victory for boxing, because it's kind of brought the excitement back to boxing as well, where we have bad men in our sport now. Like AJ looks like the baddest man on the planet right now after that demolition job. The baddest man on the planet is back to boxing. This is not MMA right now. So it's definitely a victory for boxing in that aspect. And yeah, perfect night from me as a boxing purist.
I wanted to address one thing that Jide said on his Twitter account. He said Fury doesn't have fast hands. I completely agree. His limbs are too long to have fast hands. I think it's his feet that's always been a problem, and how the positions he places himself. I've never thought Fury has like mad fast hands like Ruiz or anything like that. That's just something that I wanted to quickly touch on.
No, the thing I'll touch on that as well. Yeah, I'm not saying Fury doesn't have. I'm not saying Fury has slow hands, like he's like fucking hilarious or something. He's not. But he doesn't have fast hands. What Fury does is he throws arm punches. Because his arms are so long, he knows if you does proper rotation and sits on his punches, it takes him till Christmas to land a punch. And we've seen it. When he was fighting Wilder, when he sat on his punches, when Wilder was tired, you see how long and how much torque he had to generate for those uppercuts, those short hooks. It took him so long, relatively to how punch is thrown, for those punches to land. But because Wilder was exhausted, he couldn't get out of the way of them. When Fury throws his punches, people need to look. He slaps. He doesn't. It's like Joe Calzaghe. Like he slaps with his hands. And because if you throw arm punches and you slap, your punches are gonna get to the target quicker than if you throw a proper punch. But because he doesn't throw proper punches, it gives the illusion he has fast hands. He doesn't. Where Fury's really good at is elite distance management. He's got very good IQ. I know we're saying he's not that he doesn't throw punches correctly, but his boxing IQ is elite. I will always give Fury that. He knows how to use his body. He knows how to use his feet. He knows how to use his feints. He's probably the best feinter in the heavyweight division. Like Fury has things that goes through him. But I just hate when people try to come and tell me he's some technical elite puncher. He's just not. Or he's some fast-handed. He's just not these things. And people need to. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people that watch boxing, they don't know what they're looking at. They genuinely don't, and it's not their fault. A lot of people we all start off as casuals. That's just the truth of it. And then some of us become nerds of boxing, which is what we are. But if you actually look at what you're, if you genuinely analyze and look for what you're looking for and see how certain guys fight and what certain guys do, then you would know who's technical. Like for example, if we take it back, Marcus Maidana is not a technical boxer. Like he throws the most unorthodox punches. His punches come from the weirdest angles. However, he's very effective. But then you see someone like Adrian Broner, who kicks his ass. He throws punches quite correctly. He's more technical than Maidana. But Maidana kicked his ass because it doesn't matter how technical you are. It's about landing and beating someone up. And the reason I'm using that example is I'm not here to say, obviously I still believe AJ is better than Fury. That's just never going to change. But for Fury fans who were trying to say, no, but he's way more technical than AJ. No, you don't have to be better. You don't have to win a fight. The most technical guy doesn't win a fight. That's the point I'm trying to make. But if you know what you're looking for, Fury doesn't throw punches correctly. He's just a smart shithouse. That's what he is. But anyway, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say about, especially with the Fury stuff, is if you remember in the first Ngannou and Fury fight, the first thing Fury does is throw a 1-2 down the pipe, because what he wants to do is gauge, if I hit Ngannou and I really stick it on him, how does he react? And then throughout that whole fight, sorry, throughout that whole fight, he was always catching Ngannou with certain shots, and he was never able to rattle it. Now we know that obviously AJ has much more power than Fury, but still, to a degree, Fury should still have enough power on him to rattle Ngannou. Like remember, he knocked out Wilder, punching straight through with that right hand set into the floor. He's knocked out Dylan White with that brilliant uppercut that he threw.
Two very suspect chins. Two very suspect chins.
Maybe, yeah, but still, the fact that it didn't rattle Wilder and yet it didn't rattle Ngannou, and yet AJ just comes through, steps all his weight through it, and it was scary. That was forget the context. If just looking at the knockout, that was probably like contender for knockout of the year. Like that is 100%. A highlight reel knockout.
Yeah.
Like let me go see on YouTube just now. I just want to see, because I remember, I think it's one of the more 9.6 million views right now on YouTube, and that's a lot considering everything. Like the other highlights that AJ had were like 5. Obviously the Hellenius one was 1 punch knockout, so that gets more. I mean, obviously a 1 punch knockout gets you more views and whatnot, but this was 9.6 million. What people need to take into account is Ngannou is a superstar, so regardless of what you think about his boxing ability, for AJ to actually knock him out like that, put him flat on his back, because before he was this indestructible monster who was going to walk through AJ's chinny. Even Ngannou played into those tropes. He was always that narrative he was saying, oh, we'll see if AJ has a chin, whatnot, etc. To do that boosts AJ's stock a lot, in the casual sense, in the global sense. I think Elusive Raf, we've had him on for the Better Be of Yard special. He pointed out that in the 24 hours since the knockout, AJ's Instagram following went up by 500,000. Like, these type of things build yourself as well as a star. Even if you're a bona fide star, you can still get better, you can still get bigger, and this is one of those fights that does it.
This is what Americans love, boy. This is what they love. They just love to see people get knocked out. That's why.
I've got a question. Do you think AJ lands that punch on any top 15 heavyweight?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
That particular punch, personally, it looked like it was coming from a mile away.
Yeah,
It's context though.
Yeah,
He was super hurt before that last punch. But the other punches definitely get landed. That counter,
the other punch,
counter.
yeah,
Oh my days!
That specific KO, it's like Ngannou's there, but I think he was.
He was concussed. He was concussed. That's why he was able to land that punch.
Second knockdown. I can't lie. They could have stopped it right there.
If AJ was in the ring with Zhang in that 12th round, he lands that shot.
Yep. Zhang's not good with the head movement, and these are the two guys that I think AJ should fight next. And I think because also they're not elusive head movements like Hrgović. Hrgović is a good boxer. Like if you go around the amateur scene, you ask about Hrgović, they'll tell you this guy's a sick boxer. David Hay was bringing him out to sparring when he was like 23 or something, while he was in the amateurs.
He was beating up Wilder.
Yeah, he sparred Wilder in Hayes' gym and messed him up, but he's got a lot of issues himself. He's not got great intensity to his shots. they're not the fastest punches in the world. And also, he doesn't move his head off the line quite a lot. Zhang was pinging him with a lot of shots because Zhang, similar to AJ, has a great straight left. Like that, the way he punched Parker and dropped him was because it was so straight. And we'll get on to obviously the Zhang and Parker fight. But so I feel that version of AJ that can marry the two technical side and this, I can lean my weight all into my punches. That could knock out so many guys in the division, and he could really beat up a lot of guys in the division. He just has to keep that mentality. The one thing I did like was when he was going to the body, Ngannou typically likes to, in his boxing, likes to be a trigger counter. So you touch me and he throws that check left hook. And it was getting AJ a bit, but it wasn't like clean or anything like that. But the good thing to see was AJ was acknowledging that it was there, but he never overreacted from it. So he wasn't overthinking about throwing certain things. And that's, to me, showed that there's a difference now in AJ's mentality where he's sort of more believing in his power, where I'm not going to get silly and try to trade and, like he did with Ruiz, and I'm going to get the payoff, but it's, I know I can still put my weight into punches. I know I can still punch through people because not every single time I'm going to get knocked out from it. I just have to be a bit more responsible. And that's what he's doing. He's marrying the two sides. And that's what we saw. We saw the difference between a novice and an Olympic champion. That's what we saw. We saw a guy use his fundamentals and then use what God gave him. Bro, you're one of the best athletes in the heavyweight division. Like, you've got all this power. God has blessed you with all of this. Marry the two together, and he did. And this was a great version to see of him. Of course, not one of his best wins in terms of names, but the performance and how he knocked him out, well, that was cold. So big ups. Big ups to him.
Coming.
But one thing I wanted to ask, because I know a lot of you want to get onto this, about how does this make Fury look now since AJ made it look easy? So Chris, I'll come to you first.
Mate, listen. Say what you like about preparedness, but it makes Fury look really bad. You could see it in him. You could see it in him in the immediate reaction to the knockout. You could see it in what he was saying afterwards. He really has a bit of a complex, and I think I feel like he's always felt kind of slighted in comparison to AJ. He's never had the love that AJ's had. And I think as a result of that, he tries to put him down at any given opportunity. AJ's obviously won a knockout win against a guy he went and won a split decision with in his first ever professional boxing bout. And he's talking about he's got bigger fish to fry. He's gonna fight Usyk, who's beat AJ twice. And you can kind of feel that he's already trying to get away from the AJ fight. He doesn't really want that fight. He's called all these big guys bodybuilders, but now in hindsight, it just looks like an excuse to avoid a certain type of fighter. I mean, Ngannou is probably given Fury his toughest test in quite some time. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you look at points and scoring boxing like a boxing bout. Probably giving him one of his toughest tests in time. And
getting an SD against a novice boxer is crazy.
Exactly. And AJ does everything Ngannou does plus more. Do you know what I mean? No matter how bad Fury was on that night, he can't improve. For me, he doesn't improve enough to mitigate the difference between AJ and Ngannou. It looks bad. He was getting... It's not just that he was losing or he got knocked down initially. That can happen. Flash knockdowns can happen. All of that can happen. Do you know what I mean? You can get punched up for the first couple rounds. We've seen Usyk, for example, struggle against fighters in the first few rounds. Do you know what I mean? Against fighters that we know he's better than. But eventually, class shows itself. And yes, Fury he won the fight, and he did do enough to win the fight, in my opinion. But he was losing later rounds. Do you know what I mean? He was losing a lot of late rounds, and not just from a strength standpoint. He was being outboxed in certain rounds, which is obscene for someone who's self-proclaimed the greatest heavyweight of all time. I don't know. I don't think there's a single moment in time since AJ's been pro where he would be so out of camp, so unfit that he wouldn't be able to compete with a novice in boxing. I don't think that would ever happen. And for me, it's just Fury is just not a serious fighter. He's not a good representation or representative of the sport of boxing. Um, from for everything he does, we know he's got a tremendous comeback story, but since then, he's not really done anything great of note for me. He's not really done anything great of note. And if we're being realistic, we need to look back to before he had his mental health issues and look at the way he was acting and some of the things he did say. He's never been a great representative of the sport. Neither is Wilder. And this is why the AJ critique kind of gets to me, because say what you want about his boxing ability. If you say you don't think he's a good boxer, whatever, that's all good. But the guy tries to fight everyone. He tries to make the fights everyone wants to see. People wanted to see the Ngannou fight because people were convinced he was going to lose. We saw it. We saw the stats. We saw the blogs. We saw the predictions. People thought AJ was really going to lose and he was going to get knocked out by a novice. They said Ngannou is only going to have improved after having the experience from the Fury fight. What ended up happening? Absolutely outclassed and starched in the end, to the point where people don't even want to see Ngannou box anytime soon. So for me, I think it's very obvious how it makes Fury look. Fury's obviously got a big fight May the 5th. I'm not sure how that's actually going to turn out in the end. My prediction has always been Usyk. And it just goes to show for me, it's like the guys who are prepared, who live like boxers, who act like boxers, who do the things boxers are meant to do, will always kind of come to the top and become the real champions. And I don't feel like Fury is really deserved of the as good of a boxer as he is. I don't think he deserves to be named as the top heavyweight in the division right now. And we'll see on May 5th anyway.
Well said. Jide, Tyson Fury is your guy. I know you wanna get into him after this. So run your shit. Run it.
Nah, man, Tyson Fury is my favorite boxer of all time, as you all know. So he's my goat, man. Like I said, the gypsy fraud. He's the gypsy fraud. Tyson Fury in December. I'm so glad, although he didn't lose, thankfully, so we've got these fights still happening. He exposed everything was exposed. We'll take it back. I like how Chris went back to before his mental health issues. The guy just didn't want to fight Vladimir Klitschko in a rematch. That Tyson Fury, in my opinion, was the best version of Tyson Fury. That Tyson Fury, I would say, would probably beat Usyk. That version of Tyson Fury was nimble on his feet, was light, was like it would be very, very difficult to beat. However, the reason why I didn't want to fight Vladimir in the rematch is Klitschko figured him out at the near the end of that fight. If you watch that fight back and look at the 12th round, it was getting to him. And someone like Vladimir Klitschko, if you see how he fights, he's someone that once he's figured you out, he tends to beat you up. And I truly, truly believe if they rematch, he would have won that. But that's besides the point. You saw these antics to try to get out the fight. He got done with the drugs, melodrome or whatever it was at the time.
Nandrolone.
Nandrolone, sorry, yeah. Got done with the Nandrolone, and he was saying, "Oh, I wanted to crash my Porsche or whatever he said, and I was out for 2 years because of mental health issues." When in fact, it was a backdated ban because he couldn't, he just wasn't allowed to fight. BBBOC were having that issues, and because they were going on they were about to go on it, be bankrupt. They really couldn't really do much with him, and they just said, you know what, you and your brother, your fake wild boar meat excuse of you actually juicing, we're gonna accept it. 2 years, you're back in. Then he had the comeback story with mental health. Listen, I don't like to be doubting people's stories, but I'm sorry, I struggle to truly believe this guy was as down bad as he claims he was, because he said he gave his purse 7 million to a mental health charity. To this day, we don't know the charity he gave it to. One day he says he's a Spartan and he fights for free, but then he says, "Give me $500 million to fight Usyk." The guy is a compulsive liar, and I'm finally so happy he's been exposed as a boxer. The guy was calling himself the greatest heavyweight of all time, and he had his little acolytes and sycophants running around with that narrative. that he's the greatest boxer of all time or greatest heavyweight of all time, when he's not even had at the time he's had no heavyweight defenses. He's fought Pianetta, Otto Wallin, fights Wilder to a draw, which I think he won. Then he runs through Wilder. Then when he runs through Wilder in the second fight, you have people saying he's now some big heavy puncher, which he's never been throughout his entire career. But because he ran through Wilder in the second fight, he's the biggest puncher in the division. And the reason why we had that stupid narrative is because, again, Wilder was built up. The PBC, now we've seen how the PBC operate. We've seen it more, where they have guys in their little island that they fight and they look good. But then when they fight people outside of the PBC, they look shit. That is Wilder. That is Deontay Wilder. But because people ran with the anti-AJ narrative and Wilder's the greatest puncher in heavyweight history, although he's only fought blown up cruiserweight, fat heavyweights, old men, he's the hardest puncher that's ever existed. It will take you 11 rounds. You got to be perfect for 12 rounds. But with me, I just got to be perfect for 1 second. All that bullshit that people ran with for years. After Fury done what he done to him, they started saying this guy is the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's 6'9", which he isn't 6'9", by the way. He's more like 6'7", 6'8". I know it's me being pedantic, but it's all part of this aura that's been built up by this bum, this gypsy fraud. That is some 6'9", like Muhammad Ali clone when he's nothing like Ali. Ali fought all comers. Tyson Fury ducks like a little fucking shithouse, and it pisses me off. And I'm so happy December happened because now we know who Tyson Fury really is. And in terms of his boxing ability, yes, he's a great fighter. And in fact, he has more of a chance against Usyk than he has against Anthony Joshua. And December proved it. Because against AJ, I've always said, AJ is big, he's strong, he's got power in both hands, and he's technically sound. That is all wrong for Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, we've seen in his latest fights where he likes to do throw the 1-2 down the pipe and lean on you. Jab you, feint you, lean on you. Lean on you, lean on you, lean on you. It puts his 270 pounds on you for 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. Your legs are going to be gone, and then he beats you up. You cannot do that with AJ. We saw in December when he tried to do that with Ngannou, he got thrown out of there. Like, you cannot bully someone in the pocket who's stronger than you physically, which is why Tyson Fury looked so bad. He knew you couldn't clinch with him, so Tyson Fury had to fight like the Tyson Fury of old. But because he was so heavy and so big, he struggled. That is partly why Tyson Fury didn't look good in December. I know he tried to say he worked hard and trained as hard as. I'll be real with you, he wasn't at his best at all. But that's because he's been fighting this way. He's been fighting weighing 270, 275 and being successful. Having the third fight with Chisora when no one wanted to see. Fighting Dillian White and Dillian White getting southpaw. Like, what the hell was he trying to do there? He's been fighting guys that have made him have these bad habits and him thinking he's now some Kronk-style power puncher when that's just not who he is. So if he fights Anthony Joshua, I'm telling you now, Anthony Joshua knocks him out. I've been saying it for like 5, 6 years. Everyone's been calling me crazy on Twitter for years, saying, "Oh, AJ's overrated. You're just a fanboy." I'm like, are you not seeing how this guy fights? If Tyson Fury fights Anthony Joshua, so in fact, yeah, I said I'm with Chris. I feel like he loses to Usyk, but a part of me wants him to win that. I
Yeah.
want him to win that fight because I know AJ taking his O in devastating fashion will be the biggest drug of all time. I've never done cocaine, but I might do cocaine that day. That might be the first day I do coke because
Please
that
don't
high,
admit. Please don't admit this here. Please not here.
that kind of high will send me to the moon. I'm telling you now because AJ will beat the crap out of Tyson Fury, man. They've sparred, and Tyson Fury himself said AJ punched him up. People ignore all these things because they just have this weird agenda with Anthony Joshua where they give him no grace. He can do nothing right. Like, you had boxers, and I accept the MMA community coming out and saying Ngannou's gonna win. That's just their guy. But you had boxers. You had people like Manny Pacquiao. There was some female boxer up and come. I forgot her name. She's quite good. They were saying, "Oh, Ngannou knocks him out. Ngannou wins." I'm like, where did this all come from? This guy's representing our sport, and you guys are out here thinking a novice. You guys have been in this sport all your life, and you think a novice is gonna come and beat him because of how you've seen Tyson Fury. So I'm just glad the aura around Tyson Fury is gone. Everyone knows he's a duck. He delayed the undisputed for 2 years, and now we're gonna get it hopefully in May. he looks in incredible shape. He looks sharp, and I hope he's at his best because I don't want no excuses. If he loses to Usyk, I want everyone who still believes in Tyson Fury to finally accept he's not who you think he is. Usyk is the best fighter of this generation, and I'm talking about all weight classes, by the way.
Yeah.
I know. Terence Crawford is Terence Crawford, amazing fighter. But the difference between going up from cruiserweight to beating guys that are weighing 270, 260, 250 is so vast. It's crazy. And Usyk is unbeaten. He's beaten all these guys in impressive fashion. I don't think his hardest fight was Mario Bridis in a cruiserweight final. That was probably his hardest fight in a Super Six. And he's basically dominated everyone. He's gonna be undisputed in 2 different weight classes. He will be the best fighter of this generation. It's not going to be popular because a lot of people just love off the Americans, and also we have the Inoues. But I promise you, the weight gap, the weight difference of what Usyk is doing is so incredible. He dominated Anthony Joshua in the first fight. The second fight was competitive, but again, he was the clear winner. If he goes in there and robs out Fury, I don't want to hear anything. He's the best fighter of this generation, hands down, and one of the greatest heavyweights or greatest fighters ever. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting Usyk to win. And if Usyk wins, the Fury and AJ fight is still there. I'm just like I said, I'm so happy that this has happened. I'm so happy the narratives are finally shifting. You still have people straggling on and still believing in the gypsy fraud, which is fine. But I just need May to come. But a part of me, I pray if he can find his form in the Vladimir Klitschko fight and just win. I don't know, win it by hook or by crook, but look good and win that fight so AJ can take his own. That would be great. But I just don't think it happens. I think Usyk wins that. So yeah, that's my
And just for everyone listening that's new to this, ignore Jide. That's just his way of expressing his happiness. It's just a simile. There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. We don't encourage.
He meant cola. He meant cola.
Yeah, he meant cola. Yeah. He just got his words mixed up. It happens. I just wanted to say again. I keep segueing, but I just wanted to say there are 300 of you live viewers that have tuned in. Big ups to every single one of you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our thoughts on AJ and Ngannou. But I know there's 300 of you, so please in the comments let us know your thoughts over AJ, over Fury, over Ngannou, the whole knockout chaos card. We really do. The whole point of this pod is not only to get our views, but also we want to interact with you guys. We want to know what you guys think, what the public thinks, what's the general consensus and the thoughts that people have. So make sure to please let us know your thoughts. And also, because a lot of you will be new to this channel, I'm guessing, because 300 viewers, please follow us on Twitter. We're here every week, so at Ringside Fracas, please give us a follow. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment. Again, we're here every single week and we talk about most fights, so any fights that you want us to cover, we're probably covering anyway, and we've been covering. So please let us know your thoughts. And again, big ups to every single person tuning in. And I was going to say this. Dapper was, I know Dapper. I know AJ was doing the whole sitting in the room, dark room treatment. I was wondering why you were doing it for the last half an hour.
Listen, that's my boy. That's what we doing now. That's a new wave, man. We sit in the dark now.
But yeah, so that's probably what I said. Adam, obviously you've got a big sort of fight week coming up in the next 2 months, because obviously you're Usyk fan first and foremost when it comes to the heavyweight division. But what's your sort of thoughts now that you've seen sort of AJ take on not only Otto Wallin, who Fury kind of had a lot of issues with? He won the fight, there's no doubt about that, but he had a lot of issues getting through that. And obviously then Ngannou, another opponent that he's kind of had issues with, but AJ walked in there and made it look easy. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it's a case of styles make fights. Very cliche to say, but going off of that, personally, I do think Usyk is going to win, but he's going to have to do it in a manner which is completely different in how he beat AJ. With basically the way I see it, I personally see Usyk beating Fury the first time. I don't know if the rematch will happen. If it does happen, he'll beat him again, just because of the longevity factor, where I don't think Fury has the gas tank or the body to keep up with Usyk's output for 12 rounds. It's just not going to happen. The Fury that fought Vladimir Klitschko could have given Usyk a lot of problems because he was far more nimble and just a lot more unorthodox and difficult to fight against. But in saying that, one thing I wanted to kind of touch up on that Jide mentioned with the whole Fury fiasco of him not fighting Klitschko again. I do think Klitschko would have beat him the second time round. And I think the version of Klitschko that AJ beat would definitely beat Tyson Fury, just because stylistically, the way Fury struggles against strong, big, mid-range level fighters that are able to establish a jab and throw right hands down the pipeline. And it's why I think no matter what version of Fury you cook up and give to AJ would have had his number every single time, just because stylistically. But as I was saying, with Usyk, I see Usyk really just outworking Fury and getting the job over and done with. And then I see AJ Fury potentially happening and AJ really starting to collect all of the belts afterwards. I still think in terms of longevity, AJ has a good few years left in him. He looks like he hasn't really aged. He looks as explosive as ever, bearing in mind he's 34. But he doesn't look like he's slowing down one bit. And it looks like he's almost improving with the last couple of fights. So I think there is a very exciting few years ahead with AJ. And yeah, that's my thoughts, really.
Yeah, I feel like in the two heavyweights that have looked the best in terms of just recent form have been Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker, which we'll get onto in a bit. One of the big reasons being is this is AJ's fourth fight inside 12 months. I mean, remember he fought Franklin in April. So 12 months later, we're coming back to April. He's now had 4 fights and he's looked amazing since. And it shows you how kind of quick boxing is in terms of narratives, because before that it was, AJ might not be able to come back. He might be done. And now we're kind of looking at him and going, rah, he might be better than Tyson Fury. And same with Joseph Parker. He lost to Joe Joyce badly. He got knocked out bad. Comes back, completely dominates Wilder, ekes past Zhang, and he looks like, again, I think he's established himself as a top 4 heavyweight. So the activity side of it is really good. I think a lot of boxers need to take note of this. Is even if you're a top level boxer, activity really helps because it keeps that sharpness. And we saw how sharp AJ looked. Dapo, I know Fury is your best friend as well. So, what are your thoughts on AJ destroying his last 2
Fury,
opponents? That those last 2, isn't it?
That's my guy, man. Fury, king, best heavyweight of all time. Now, so I think it's quite sad some of the coping mechanisms I'm seeing from some boxing fans trying to cope with what's going on. Like, I think there's so much more in these last couple of fights that these two have had that we're willing to admit. First of all, I'm not hearing the excuse of styles make fights when it comes to boxing novice. I'm so sorry. At this point of your career, Tyson Fury should have seen all styles. That's what happens when you don't duck. You should have seen all styles. It doesn't matter if you just go up off the couch to box somebody that is practically a beginner. His style is not an excuse. You understand? Like, I just feel like he's on a heavy decline right now in terms of his boxing ability, his physical strength, and just like how he is as a fighter. Look how weak he looked in the clinch versus Ngannou, and look at AJ in the clinch versus Ngannou. Two night and day. And Fury's supposed to be known for being a good inside fighter who can, like, clinching is part of his game, right? So I don't buy into the whole, like, it's because of styles and stuff. I just feel like, both fighters are in just different stages of their career. Whereas Fury's on a heavy decline, AJ is on a steady rise. So yeah, the coping mechanism I'm seeing right now is insane. Like, I feel like it's even worse to say, oh, he didn't prepare and all this stuff, because is that the kind of champion you want to represent? Somebody that doesn't prepare for fights, somebody that lies to the fans and tells you, oh, because people would have to pay for that to watch that fight, right? So why am I watching a boxer who's not preparing for a fight? Why am I paying to watch that? You understand? Like, it's such a poor representation of the sport. I do think that he just fought let me just make a quick however many M's he made versus Ngannou, and then go into Usyk fight. I think he's completely underestimated himself as a fighter. I mean, not underestimated, overestimated himself as a fighter. I agree with Jide and Adam and Chris where I do think Usyk beats Fury. I think the Fury that we need to have in order to make it a competitive fight or for Fury to win is gone, and you're not getting that Fury back. He's way older now. He's put his body through way too much to become that fighter again. I feel like he probably gave his all to win that Klitschko fight, and I don't see him returning to that fighter again. I think he tried to do that versus Wilder, and that first Wilder fight kind of showed you he's not going to be that extreme, elusive, light on the feet boxer again, because even like you will still hurt a few times versus Wilder, and you weren't that complete fight that you were before. So I don't see him being able to replicate that again versus Usyk. And I just agree. I think the output, the volume is just going to be way too much. And I haven't seen anybody say this, but I think the stoppage is on the cards, man. I can see Usyk stopping Fury. I can see it.
Yeah.
Late. I can see it,
Yeah.
boy. Like, people don't really talk about Usyk's. The people don't talk about.
That'd be crazy, man.
I can see it. If it's just, he can get. The thing is, when people think about being like stopped here, they think about being knocked out. You can get stopped on your feet. You can get stopped on your feet. You can be, if you're not throwing back, you're too tired, and Usyk is throwing 3, 4, 5, 6 punch combinations. It almost happened to AJ. 12th round, first fight. Almost happened to him. I can see that happening. So yeah, Fury. I'm not mad at Fury in terms of like not talking about the AJ fight. And the reason I'm not mad at that is because you've got a madness waiting for you in May. So I don't even mind you not talking about AJ right now, because you've got a madness waiting for you. So you should focus on that madness. And then if you come through that, then you can start talking about AJ again. So I'm not even mad at that. People are saying, oh, he's not going to talk about AJ, he's ducking. Nah, I'm not even mad at that. That's calm. Focus on Usyk, because I want the best version of you versus Usyk, because I think Usyk has got something for you. And I'm hearing somebody, obviously, like, Usyk's manager, promoters will say that he's looking good and stuff, but the things that they're saying about this guy right now in preparation for this fight, I think he's got something cooking for Fury, boy. That's what I'm going to say. But yeah, overall, I think there's so much more into those 2 last AJ performances that people are not trying to admit. Like, another narrative is, Fury said, I fought Otto Wallen 5 years ago. Otto Wallen now, before he fought AJ, it's so crazy how narrative changes. Before Otto fought AJ, he had racked up some good wins, right? And there's nothing to say that he's a worse version than he was when he fought Fury. Yeah. He's the same fighter, pretty much, right? And before he fought AJ, the narrative was this guy gave Fury problems. He cut him. He can give AJ the same problems. He's a tricky southpaw. We can see he might nick it on points. That's what people were saying. Now after the fight, he's a sparring partner. He fought Fury 5 years ago. He's a bum. It's just so crazy how narrative changes. You can't rate my man on one hand. He gets beat and then you just change your opinion. Boxing fans need to do better, man. If we say someone can give someone problems or whatever, and the person gets beat, let's just stick to that. Give the guy credit. He beat him. It's not what we expected. Fair enough. On to the next one. So I think there's so much more to see. And then in Ngannou as well, like, the narrative before that, listen, 50-something% people of the Zone viewers said that Ngannou was going to knock out AJ. Do you know how insane that is? 50% of viewers said Ngannou would beat AJ. And it wasn't just the Zone. It was on every social media platform, Twitter, YouTube. All the polls that I was seeing was saying Ngannou was going to win. And the betting odds were not wide enough for me. They weren't wide enough for me. So I think there's so much more to actually read in terms of those like last couple of performances. I do think, because normally boxing math doesn't work. I subscribe to that. I don't believe in boxing math, especially when you look at the whole triangle with Parker, Joyce, and Zhang. Boxing math doesn't work. But in this instance, I think we will be foolish not to actually look into what's going on between Fury and AJ. Like, how have I got 2 guys that you fought? You've gone the distance with both guys. One guy's cut you. The other guy's knocked you down. And I just blasted them. Like,
can I just ask something?
Go for it.
Ramadan's tomorrow. Why are you looking at betting odds, bro?
No,
my brother in Islam. Why are you looking at betting odds?
I'm not a betting man. I just saw it, man. I'm not a betting man. I didn't bet. I don't I don't bet. I'm not betting on nothing, man. I don't bet. But I saw it. I was like, raw. Like, how is my man? You know what I'm saying? It should have been way wider than that. But yeah, I'm not. That's Lewis. I'm not a betting man.
No, yeah. And the point I wanted, the one point that I want to get across is all you man that said MMA. I saw bare MMA, obviously, because MMA has a big YouTube sort of world and they have their own big creators. All you lot that said Ngannou is gonna bully AJ, he's gonna drop him, he's gonna expose the chin and all of that. Don't backtrack now. Stick to your word. Okay, it flopped or whatever, but don't backtrack and say, "Oh, that's what AJ was supposed to do. It's a novice." Don't backtrack. If
I'm
the
seeing
people that are
hella
outside of it,
backtracking.
if the people outside of it they said, "Oh, now AJ is going to do what Ngannou's supposed to do," and they said that's fair. I agree with that. I don't think for AJ this cements him as the best heavyweight in the world, like Eddie Hearn says. Obviously, there's two guys that are going to do that in May 18th to find out who the best heavyweight in the world is. But this is a great performance. But for those of you that thought Ngannou was going to win, you have to give AJ his props. You can't take that away because you thought Ngannou was going to stick it on him, Ngannou was going to bully him, and he's going to expose all this stuff. So don't backtrack on that.
Like even last week I said, yeah, if AJ doesn't dominate, it's an L. If we came back and AJ struggled to win, I'll be here with you and saying, bro, this guy's washed. Like, I hate how people don't stand on business. Like, admit, just take the L. You're not gonna lose nothing from taking the L. And a
We
lot of
get
people
things
trying
wrong
to,
all the time, but that's boxing. But yeah, just have to just respect it.
Yeah, you just
Honestly,
have to be consistent. There's no consistency. It's all just recency bias. Like people are so reactive to whatever happens, and they completely disregard what they say before. And another thing is that a lot of boxing analysts and experts and whatnot come out, and it's like. And we were talking about this in the chat. They give like 5 different opinions of what's going to happen, so that they hedge their bets, so that when the result happens afterwards,
Teddy Atlas. That's Teddy Atlas for you, boy.
like, yeah, it's stupid.
listen. Teddy Atlas has got CTE, man. I don't know why anyone still listens to him when it comes to boxing.
He needs to
He
stop
has
talking.
he has agendas. And one thing I hate about fans as well, yeah, we do this even in all sports. It's like it's not our fault because obviously you're meant to get the so-called experts are meant to be experts. They're meant to inform us and tell us what's actually happening. However, people don't acknowledge the fact they have biases. Because a lot of us, the entire UK is so football heavy, we know Gary Neville's got biases when he talks about Man United. We know Jamie Carragher's got biases when he talks about Liverpool. We know their punditry is not as technical as you can get from other places because we understand the sport so well. But unfortunately, because combat sports is so niche, guys don't know these. They don't know this stuff. They don't know when all this is happening. So it's like when Teddy Atlas is saying, "Oh well, AJ has no ability. He's got no chin." They believe it. When he says Canelo is not a great Mexican, they believe it. When Andre Ward is saying Canelo is not for anyone, it's not an all-time great, they believe it. And it's a problem because we're meant to sell the sport to casuals. So why are you always trying to tear down the current stars when you know yourself, truthfully, these guys are great at what they do. These guys are great fighters. And that's why I like Tim Bradley. I like him, but he's got his own biases. He's just a lot of the American pundits or American boxing, quote unquote, boxing expert have such a blind eye when they're looking at British fighters, especially Anthony Joshua.
It's
Like
because
they
of
don't.
Wilder, man. Like till
I
this
know, I
day,
know,
they still reference Wilder. Like I was
I
watching a
know.
podcast yesterday. The guy was talking about how good AJ looked, but he was still salty that that's not Wilder doing that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. I know. I know it is the nationalism thing and it is the Wilder bias. I fully acknowledge that. However, you got to get over it. You're meant to be a boxing expert. You're meant to tell us what AJ is good at, and you're meant to accurately analyze what he's not good at. Is his mentality? Fair, okay, cool. It's his mentality, but what has his mentality got to do with his boxing skills? They will never talk about his boxing skills. They just keep telling us about his mentality. He doesn't have it in him. What does that mean?
You have to
What
be
does that
objective,
mean?
man. Because like we're all like from the UK here, but we have to acknowledge that Usyk is the number 1 heavyweight. On to
Bro,
better than
I'm
AJ. We have to say it.
bro.
You know what I'm saying?
I have when Usyk AJ fight, and we can look back at those pods. We all said Usyk's probably gonna win. We didn't like that fight. We was all rooting for AJ, but we didn't like that fight for him because we knew the kind of what he's got ahead of him. It's like these guys, these so-called boxing pundits and experts, they got to do better and stop being so agenda driven. They need to stop it because we're trying to grow the sport. But if we have these kind of guys selling us nonsense, it's not gonna grow. All these MMA guys, they got their narratives from Teddy Atlas, from Andre Ward, from Tim Bradley. That's where they got these narratives from. He's got no chin. That's where they got it from. He's scared of Wilder. He's scared of Fury. That's where they're getting it from.
I honestly don't know why everyone becomes a psychologist when it comes to AJ specifically.
Bro.
The guy
Bro, they were calling this guy nervous. Oh, he's scared. Bro.
Oh, he's nervous. Oh, he's scared. Oh, he's mentally not right. And it's like they're just trying to find any straw that they can pick up with AJ, and I don't really get it.
What's in their AirPod? Bro, this guy's a mad man.
Like none of this happens to any other fighters. I really don't get it. And it's not me trying to fanboy AJ or anything, but you have to call a spade and see how ultra critical people are when it comes to AJ specifically.
To be fair, the airport thing was good because we found out this guy's listened to Wiley Eskimo. So
Hey, Jide, what did I say when it came out?
I really enjoyed that actually.
I said head clean off.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard that intro music, I said head clean off.
Yeah, it was the best way to represent the UK as well. So,
yeah.
I know some Americans would have never heard of that beat in their life.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the whole eyes thing. Oh, look, when he's looking at Ngannou, he looks scared. But like when the fight was ended, his eyes were the same. So it's like
I know,
he's still scared.
Fam, AJ's been doing that. AJ's been doing that same stare down since his debut. Like he just
That's just how he looks, man.
That's how he looks, bro. He just has that face. I don't know, but he's scared. There's something wrong with him. Like my guy, just let it go, man. But yeah.
But he did look more relaxed, in my opinion, in this fight week because I was seeing because one of our guys, Sherry Abassi, and big up Sherry because he always does his reporting.
Big him up, yeah.
But seeing him go to these Saudi events is like sometimes I'm envious, but I'm proud of him. Like it's amazing. AJ was a bit more like in the Wallin one. He wasn't as sort of relaxed. He was a bit tense because obviously it was a big fight for him. There was a lot going on, and he knows the threat that Wallin presented. So he wasn't giving too much away in the pre-fight interviews. There was not a lot of words coming out. But in this one, when I was seeing a couple of the interviews and I was seeing the way he was acting, there was a bit more of a looseness about him, if that's the correct term. I don't want to pause if there's a pause needed. Like he looked like he was a bit more confident in the fight because I think they kind of know what's in front of them and they know that they planned this to happen. And he did kind of, to me, seemed he was just enjoying everything in his stride. He was still getting into fight zone, still getting into fight mode, but he kind of enjoyed everything this time around more, which is good because
I think that last card, he was just surrounded by too many enemies, fam. Wilder, Miller, too many dons, fam. He had to be on his P's and Q's, boy.
Yeah, this time he didn't really have anyone that was his ops around him. It was just do you see that weird video where Zhang spuds him and goes,
I love that video. Where can I find that video?
AJ looks into the camera like, what's going on? What's this?
Oh my days. Kill him.
I think he said KO him, and AJ probably heard it as kill him, and he's like, "What's going on?"
It sounded like kill him, but
it sounded like kill to me, you know.
I think it's the way he said it, KO in it, because it's Zhang in it, so like he wouldn't say it properly. But
that was such a bro. You know what that reminds me of? Like an episode of like The Office or something.
Yeah,
because it pans to AJ's face, and he's just like.
It was proper awkward. He was just like, "What's this? What's this?" But nah, that was a good fight week, man. I enjoyed it. But obviously, it was a bit different because bloody hell, it was on a Friday, and the whole event was over 10 hours long. Like
I hated that.
I don't think the card had. Well, maybe it's because we got spoiled with Day of Redemption or whatever it was called, where it was such a stacked card. This card didn't quite live up to.
This card was better.
You think?
In terms of Day of Reckoning,
in terms of quality.
Day of Reckoning had the names, but there were mismatches. Bivol was in a mismatch. Opatao was in a mismatch.
I get you in regards to that.
These ones were more matched up, so you get better fights in them, and we did get better fights, in my opinion. Yeah. It's just
I think the issue. I think that the issue is boxing needs to That's one thing I feel like boxing should learn from UFC in sticking to time. Like you don't need the thing to go on for 20 hours or whatever. Like just after one fight's done, clear the ring, make the next fight. Clear the ring, make the next fight. It's like they want to make everything a show. You don't have to do that. This ain't the Super Bowl. Like the main fight, make it a show. The co-main, you can make it a show. Everything else, just in, out, in, out, in, out. That's what they need to do.
And there's no reason the main fight, the AJ fight, should be walking out in Saudi time at 3 a.m. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
no
it's
boxer should be
insane.
fighting at 3 a.m.
It's
That's
ridiculous.
just,
Ngannou
that's just
Ngannou
insane.
looked like he needed a nap before the fight even
Well, he got
started.
the nap, didn't he?
There we go.
You're dumb.
Ngannou's my guy. I don't even. I did feel bad when I was like, the initial knockout was sick, but then
It's
felt bad
someone
afterwards.
you don't want to see hurt, but it was needed for boxing. It's like
Nah, I
Yeah.
can't lie, yeah. I feel
Respect.
bad, but at the same time, I don't feel bad, man. Because when he knocked Fury down, he was dancing, fam. So I don't know if I feel that bad. Can't lie.
True. I
Because
remember that.
if he would have knocked AJ down, he
No,
would have been
I,
Shaq
you
away,
know
fam.
what?
He would have been
I've
a Zonto, and bruv.
I've seen his disrespect level start rising a bit.
It's
because
rising, bro. He
he's
was very
rising, and I feel
disrespectful.
like I didn't want to be the guy to say it, but he kind of needed a little slice. of
Low
humble
key
Because-
needed that humbling.
For you to come out in your second professional fight against a Olympic gold medalist and to try go southpaw, I found that quite disrespectful. It's
I
like you
don't
ain't
think
even-
I don't think he did it to be disrespectful.
Nah, he didn't. He wanted to get rid of AJ's jab.
I don't think he did
Yeah,
it. But
and then you ate the right instead. Like
But
Exactly.
do you know what it
Yeah.
is? I feel like, especially in the UFC and MMA, you can kind of switch between stances on the fly
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're trying to account for so many different things. It can throw
Yeah.
your opponent off, and then obviously you're not going to get punished for it in the same way you're going to get punished for it in boxing.
And
And
Fury
so-
didn't punish him for it either. So
Fury
probably
couldn't
thought he could
punish
run it
him
back.
for it.
Yeah.
And AJ, obviously, we know what he's like about what he's like with southpaws. Straight right hand, boom, down.
Straight
That was
down the
it.
middle. Back.
That was it.
Yeah.
You
Because-
could
One,
tell.
oh yeah, one
Oh, go
one
on,
thing
go
I
on,
was
go
going to mention actually, yeah, I really wanted him to comment on AJ's power, and he never did.
Bro, he said
said
he
he-
didn't feel it. He just went straight
He
to
said he
sleep.
didn't feel it,
You don't feel the punch, and it's like I don't think you're supposed to when you're
but
unconscious.
at
Like,
least he got hit twice before then.
bro,
Do you know
you
what I
could
mean?
tell. You could tell he respected his power a lot because the
Very
difference.
was-
early.
He was
difference
biting.
is-
He was biting at every feint, so he definitely respected it.
Yeah, exactly that. It's like he wasn't biting on any feints at all when it came to Fury, but with AJ, he was literally biting on everything.
Exactly. And I
So-
don't know if you guys noticed, yeah, but like his feet, all of his shots, his hooks, he couldn't get any power into him because he was so terrified. His feet were all wrong because he was terrified of getting hit.
Bro, I'm telling you, it's a different story when you're in there with that guy, man.
Yeah.
Like
They-
before
they-
you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, they overinflated Ngannou's ego so much. They're talking about where he's been through,
bro,
the
and
hardship.
everybody
He's never
is
gonna
guilty
back
of it.
down.
Everyone's guilty of it. Even from the stare down. Look at Ngannou's head. He looks like AJ's dad. He's so big. He's so that, bro. AJ's never fought anyone that's as big as him. There's so many narratives at the same time. Of course, his head's gonna be big.
Now muscle matters. When it was Fury fighting him at the same size,
Bodybuilder.
muscle and muscularity didn't matter. It
Bro.
didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, man,
Well,
demolition
well,
job,
like-
man.
But lads,
the one thing.
quick one. Sorry, lads, I have to drop off. But great show. Keep
Yeah.
supporting the guys. One thing I will say is Parker is the fourth best heavyweight. Don't let anyone gaslight you.
I
Like
don't think-
I've been hearing some weird comment. Adam, I can't lie to you. A man,
I-
this is before I drop off because obviously I can't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into
yeah.
this. He's beat Joy. Not Joy. Sorry, he's beat Zhang and he's beat Wilder. One of them was consensus top 2 heavyweights over the last 5 years, although it's bullshit, but that was what it was. It was consensus top 2. And the other guy earned his shot, is the current WBO champion. So at the very least, it was number 4. And Parker beat both of them. He beat Wilder conclusively and he eked out a W over Zhang. So he deserves to be number 4. You can't tell me there's another. You can't say Joyce because Joyce got washed by Zhang. And until Joyce comes back and does something, it is Parker's. Parker's earned the right. You might believe he's not what you people are saying he is, but he's
Yeah.
earned the right to be number 4. The
You can be
second thing
fourth best and be meaty.
So
The
this
I,
is
heavyweight
I don't.
division's not stacked like that.
No, just the last thing I'll say. I don't think
Yeah.
he's media as well. This is what happens when everyone fights each other. This is why we want people to fight each other. It's a styles thing. Parker is elusive. He's got hard. He's got fast hands, fast feet, good head movement. He's gonna struggle against certain styles. However, he's gonna look good against other guys. This is what happened. Like Samson, another guy that used to be on here regularly. He used to say stuff like Parker's washed, Parker's shit, Parker's this, Parker's that. But the people that knew this guy can box. Samson knows he can box, but Samson loves Wilder. You know how that goes. So if you fight everyone, everyone is going to lose. Fury would lose to AJ if you fought him the right time, and we'll be saying he's meaty. Wilder would have lost way more times if he fought guys when he should have fought. AJ's lost twice. He's avenged one, and one is proving quite difficult. Like all these guys, if they fight, they will lose. And to your point, they might look quote unquote meaty, but all it reinforces, in my opinion, is this is one of the most stacked and the most competitive heavyweight divisions we have ever had.
the same.
It's just what it is.
I totally
So
agree.
that is my point. That's why I don't think Joseph Parker is a B tier or meaty fighter. I think he's very good. I think he's earned the right to see himself as the 4th best. And obviously, I'm not saying he's A plus. I'm not saying he's Usyk, Fury, or AJ. I'm not doing that. But I think when all is said and done in this era, depending on how it wraps up in the next 2-3 years, Joseph Parker can come out as be the 3rd or 4th best heavyweight.
Yeah.
Like I'm being very, very real with you. Like let's say, God forbid, he beats AJ in his rematch, he goes ahead of him. Or let's say he beats. No. He just does. I'm sorry. Like in terms of, it's like he's avenged his L, and then he's beat Wilder, he's beat Zhang, and let's say he goes and beats or goes like has a great fight with Usyk. Obviously, again, it depends on how things wrap up in it. I don't think he will, but I'm just saying, like, what Parker can finish this era as a top 3, top 4, depending on how things play out. I don't think he will be top 3, but top 4 is very realistic. That's why I don't think he's meaty, personally.
Before you cut, Jide, just one thing before you leave. I want to get your thoughts. I'm going to get everyone else's thoughts because we'll go into detail. No Fury, no Usyk, because then we wrapped up for the next year. Who next for AJ that you want to see him in with?
I want to see him fight Hrgovic. That's the one. That's the one that will tell me AJ is really here, because he's unbeaten. He's a good boxer. Although again, he doesn't move his head, but he's got good fundamentals. Judges distance well. He's big as well. Same size as AJ. If AJ stops him, he's really here. I also want to just see, because Wilder is a bum in it. I just want to see my man sprawled out. What happened to Ngannou, I want to see for Wilder, because I'll go on every single PBC Pro Wilder YouTube channel. I'll be camped there. Like I'll take annual leave just to do that. Like I'll be in the comments just for like
AJ
I need that.
killed him.
I need that. So Hrgovic and Wilder are who I want to see him fight, and then Usyk and Fury winner.
Perfect. Well said. Adam, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I think I was going to touch up on the whole Parker situation. So the reason why Jide went off is I kind of said I see Parker as a B tier fighter. Now, it might sound harsh because what Jide said is in fact all correct, in that on paper, these last 2 wins have been brilliant for him, and it's put him right up there in the mix with the top people in the division. But I'm just not convinced. I think that his last win against Wilder was more of an indicator of how poor Wilder is than how good Joseph Parker is, if that makes sense.
Sorry, Adam, I'm gonna go now. Yeah. Cheers,
All right,
lads.
cool.
Hopefully, have a good
Take care.
show. I'll watch on after. Cheers, boys.
See you.
All good, man. Yeah. So I think it was more of an indication of how Wilder was more of a fraud than Joseph Parker. And what we saw the other night in Parker just didn't convince me whatsoever. I think it was more a issue of Zhang being completely inactive and just not having the gas tank. The guy came into the ring with bronchitis, emphysema, and every single lung disease known to man, because his capacity, like from a aerobic perspective, was just non-existent. He was pacing himself from round 2. After round 3, he got the knockout. And I said to my boy, I was like, he needs to finish him off soon, or Parker's just gonna run away just on output alone. He looked like he was gassing very early on. But it was also a thing where in the first 2 rounds and maybe the 3rd round, watching the way that fight started, you think Zhang could have actually took Parker out at any moment if he actually had the gas tank there. If it was a fitter Zhang that was a bit more, that was less heavy, lighter, because he come in at a career heaviest, I believe, that was able to last a bit more, I think Zhang would have put Parker away very, very easily. Most of Parker's shots weren't accurate. He threw punches in bunches at times, but they were all mostly on the gloves. And I really didn't see anything from my perspective that made me think, wow, this is a real redemption arc where Parker is improving and showing me different nuances of his boxing skill set, which I haven't seen before. I think he's a lot more sluggish than the Parker I knew before AJ fight and so forth. I just don't see these improvements that everyone's saying. I just think he's had 2 wins, which look very, very good on paper, but don't say the full picture, in my opinion.
Yeah, perfectly said. So on the next card, and then at the end of these 2, we'll come on to who's next for each fighter. But we won't come on to who's next for Parker and Zhang, because one thing I have to make, one thing that I don't think a lot of people know is that there is a rematch clause if Zhang lost, and he did lose, so there will be a rematch between Parker and Zhang. People wondering why, it's because Zhang is a Queensberry fighter, so Frank Warren did make sure that if Parker is going to take on Zhilei Zhang, that there was a rematch clause in the contract. So yeah, Parker took on Zhilei Zhang, and I think it was a fight that I was quite excited for, and I think it delivered at times. I think in terms of heavyweight scraps, we got good knockdowns and got some good work from both fighters. But as a whole, I think it did kind of under-deliver towards the back end, because both fighters kind of, like you said, Zhang's tank couldn't last him the whole fight, and Parker really wasn't taking a lot of risks, and he wasn't able to get a lot of success himself as well. So Parker won by majority decision, and he becomes the WBO interim heavyweight champion. Chris, what were your thoughts on that card? That fight, sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting fight. Contrary to a lot of other people's opinions, I didn't really enjoy the fight that much, if I'm being honest.
Same, to be honest.
I didn't really enjoy the fight that much. It was obviously competitive, but it was competitive in a very strange way. They were both fighting for very different things. One guy was fighting to survive and not get knocked out, essentially, and the other guy was trying to throw as many shots as he could before he passed out, essentially. And we all know how it ended up. Parker won, and rightfully so. Just looking at figures like Zhang landing 0 shots in the 12th round, for me, is enough to lose the fight. I think that's embarrassing. What I will say is, yes, it's a great win for Parker. Absolutely. There's this narrative that if Zhang had a bigger tank, blah, blah, he's never going to have a bigger tank than he does now, in my opinion. For me, at the age of 40, it's going to be hard to improve his endurance enough, especially in time for the rematch. He can come in a bit slimmer, yeah, sure, but the thing that we
forget that tank is never happening, boy. And I feel like they know that. That's why he came in so heavy.
It's not happening. And for me, it's like we said this. We said this in the chat. It was always about Zhang's endurance. We said it. We questioned it. I remember having this conversation with Lewis. Lewis was like, he doesn't know how anyone picked Parker. And I said he's tank. And this is while he was still winning the fight quite comfortably after the second knockdown. And it's just always been bad. With Hrgovic, it was bad. Who was it he fought before Hrgovic?
Jerry Forrest.
Jerry Forrest.
It was also bad. Do you know what I mean? There was excuses. They said he had issues and whatnot. For me, one thing that's that takes a long time to adjust is your fight endurance. And the more you increase up in age, the more difficult it's going to be. And so, yeah, Zhang ultimately didn't really impress me. He's obviously got power with that size and with his Olympic background and pedigree. Of course, we know he can bang. We know he can hit a really hard shot. And to be honest, a lot of the shots that he downed Parker with, they weren't necessarily amazing shots. Do you know what I mean? They weren't the best. I've seen it. It's not like the same shots he hit Joyce with, but yeah, he's got power nonetheless. Ultimately, it's a good victory for Parker, but this is where I was talking about context matters. Yes, he beat Wilder. Yes, he beat Zhang, but the performances themselves, the Wilder one was a great performance, especially given the fact that Wilder had knocked down everyone he'd been in the ring with up until that point. Was a great performance to survive and pretty much win every round. The Zhang fight, however, for me, it was a bit too close for comfort. Yes, he got the victory, but he took a lot of damage. And when I look at other fighters who'd go in, I don't think he's ever going to fight that fight again. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to go against another top fighter. You know, that's not going to happen against Joyce. Sorry, that's not going to happen against yeah, it's not going to happen against Joyce. It's not going to happen against AJ. We know he's not going to fight Fury. It's not going to happen against Hrgovic. Any of the younger fighters, Daniel Dubois, it's not going to happen against them. They're going to have a similar tank to him. Maybe not as good, but enough to last. And maybe not the same power, but enough power to cause him problems. We know he's been down a few times in his career. So yeah, for me, just based on his performances and his results, he's probably fourth best right now for me. I've seen people put him as third above AJ, which is obscene. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely obscene to me. I don't understand it. And I've seen the worst one I've seen was from Timothy Bradley, putting him second best heavyweight right now, above
That's
Alexander
disgusting.
Usyk. Above Oleg, and I don't know.
That's
And this is
disgusting.
what I mean. Maybe because
I hope you made that up, Chris.
Timothy Bradley, this is a Hall of Famer.
That Malteser.
Hall of Fame.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not always best for ex-boxers to have opinions because, you know, they take a lot of damage over the course of their career and it can kind of cloud their judgment. But like,
because he beat Wilder, that's why. These Americans, man, they love Wilder.
No, I mean, he's not even. I don't even. It's not even that he's like. You put Fury first by means of what exactly?
Because he beat Wilder. That's why I'm telling you, bro.
But this is the thing. You've beat Wilder. So is Parker. They've not fought each other. What's your actual metric for putting? And he beat Wilder better than Fury did. So even if you're going to put him that high based on Wilder alone, you could argue that Parker had the way better performance, and so he should be number one.
I don't know, man. That second fight, Fury flogged him still.
Yeah, but the thing is, off of the most recent fight, he went down twice.
Yeah, I hear it.
If you're trying to do a recent kind of, and then obviously you look at the Ngannou fight, he was knocked down, split decision against a novice. You could argue that
it's like Jide said, these pundits and stuff, it's just narrative based, man.
It's far too narrative based.
It's a sport of narratives. I mean, how you could rate Parker ahead of a unified champion that holds 3 belts?
Three belts, and then
insanity.
how you putting Parker above the guy who
beat him
comfortably? Do you know what I mean?
And it was 2-time unified. So yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to see how the rematch goes because I don't think Zhang can come in that heavy ever again. I don't think he needed to come in that heavy. I'm almost tempted to. I would have almost said I'm not even sure it's going to happen because of the fact that Zhang is so old, but I don't think he's got much in the way of paydays left. Zhang would have been tailor-made to fight Wilder. I think he would have starched Wilder, honestly.
Same. 100% same.
In my personal opinion, I think he's just too big, too
he would
strong.
have finished Wilder.
Wilder's
To
tank.
That southpaw would have confused him. I
Yeah,
can't
it would
lie.
have confused him. And
You
then
know what? It's a southpaw stance, yeah, and the way he's able to land that left straight at will down the pipe, yeah, is like ridiculously accurate. And for such a big guy who has really slow feet, he's got deceptively quick hand speed as well.
he's got
Very
really
quick.
fast hands.
Yeah.
For someone his age, his size,
And
his
his
hands
timing's on point as
really-
well. That's how he gets his knockdowns, man.
Yeah, like you look at the knockdowns he got, there weren't punches where he followed through completely and rotated at the hips and whatnot. There were punches which didn't really travel that much in distance. It was kind of Beterbiev-esque almost in that. It were very short punches, but he's still able to generate so much
It's like
power.
clubbing blows. Yeah, Zhang is actually wavy.
Heavy hand, man, and you can't do much with punches either because the distance the punch travels is so small. Sometimes you don't have time to react. There weren't big blows that landed on Joseph Parker, but they made his knees buckle below him. So
And Fury ain't got hands like Zhang. So this fast hands thing, that's why I didn't agree. I think Zhang's got fast hands. I think it's actually unfortunate about his age and his engine because I think Zhang's I think he causes hella people problems. Usyk, age. I think he causes all these some issues. But yeah, like
How old
his
was
age
Zhang in
and
the
engine.
Olympics? He must have been.
He must have been much older. Yeah, much
He
older
went.
than everyone.
He went to 2 Olympics. He got a bronze. He got a bronze in Beijing, which I think was. I'm not.
Beijing was 08, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want to sound a bit negative, but it's in Beijing and Zhang.
Yeah, of course.
So there is that aspect of amateur boxing doesn't always do itself a favor. But then he also went to London as well, and that's where he lost to AJ. Which I can't lie. You see, if you look back at AJ's the Olympic run, the guy went through a run in that Olympic. He fought.
Respect this guy, man. I'm telling you.
Camarelle, who's Olympic gold medalist and a champion. You know, he's one of the best, one of the better amateur heavyweights. He fought Erislandi Savon. I mean, that name speaks for itself. If you don't know amateur boxing, Erislandi Savon speaks for itself. This is a guy who, one of those Cubans who always just goes to these elite competitions and ends up winning or at least getting a medal. He's one of those top guys. He beat Zhile Zhang. He also then beat Ivan Ditchko, and Ditchko is a proper amateur warrior. Now he's pro, but he was one of those Kazakh guys that, again, same thing, came up in that amateur system and spent so much time in it. So big, like AJ's Olympic run was insane. But yeah, with Zhang, one thing I had, we did a pod, so 2 pods ago we had Zhang's manager on, Terry Lane, and we were discussing obviously the Parker fight and everything, and the Jerry Forrest fight. Obviously I had to ask him, like, what was the issue, because obviously he looked like a world level heavyweight in the first 3 rounds, dropping Forrest in every single round, and then obviously his gas tank fell off, and he said there was a couple medical issues that he had to deal with that they went to the hospital for afterwards. And I feel like, I think this is something that's always going to plague Zhang, not maybe big medical problems, but he's just never going to have a great gas tank, which is why he has one of the lowest outputs when it comes to out of the top 10 heavyweights. He's never had a high work rate, and in this fight you saw it work against him, because a lot of the shots that Parker landed, they were on the gloves. They weren't clean punches. They weren't, and Zhang was actually getting through with some clean shots like in between, but they go unnoticed because they're far and few between. So I actually thought it was a close fight. I thought Parker won it, and like you said, in that last round, Zhang needed to have a bit more urgency, and he could have taken it in that last round if he really stuck it on Parker, but he didn't, and he doesn't have that sort of that work rate. And I saw that in his last 6 fights, on average, he was landing 12 punches a round. In this fight, he landed 6 punches. So that's a real big drop off. And I think he knew that as well, that he wasn't as accurate. So that's why he wasn't willing to, spend the gas tank and tried to do everything he could to win that fight. But you never know what a fighter's going through. And maybe there is something in the background with Zhang that does hold him back from, having that urgency about him. Medically we never know, but it wasn't a performance like you lot said. It's not a performance from Parker that I'm like, wow. It was like you grifted, and big ups to Parker and Andy Lee, because they've beaten two top guys in the heavyweight division who are still problems. You know, on their day, Wilder and Zhang can be problems for any heavyweight. You know, big heavy hitters. So for Parker to come in and beat those two guys within 3 months is a big feat. So you know, credit to Parker and the team, because they, like you said, fourth best heavyweight in the world, and rightly so. After this rematch, if he does beat Zhang again, he deserves a world title shot. Whether it's against Fury, obviously he won't fight Fury because he's a bum boy, but Usyk or AJ, whoever it is, he deserves a big fight, and there's no doubt about it. And that was my take, is that he did enough to win.
100% agree. Especially, I like Andy Lee and this Parker combo because he was looking mid before the Wilder fight. Can't lie. So there's improvement.
No, but then you have to remember, Andy Lee was also Parker's trainer during the Joyce fight, so it wasn't all sunshine and roses. But they stuck together, and they sorted out whatever issues they had. The main thing with the Joyce fight was he just came in too heavy, and he came within the game plan of, I want to knock out Joe Joyce, and Parker's just not that knockout destroyer guy. But Zhang is, but Parker isn't. But this way he fought was much better. Especially against Wilder and against Zhang, it's much better because, again, if you win, you win. You can't really say anything. These are top level heavyweights that you're beating. It's not like you're beating some random guys. You're beating top guys. So credit to Parker for what he's done. But what I want to ask, we covered the main two fights. What's next for AJ that you lot want to see him in? Who do you want to see him in? I'll come to you first, Dapper.
Yeah, Ronald Hergovich, man. I think he needs a proper solid name. Like after like Ngannou and Wallin, I think he needs a name where it's like, okay, we know he's back, and obviously taking the O from Hergovich would be good. It would just further deepen his resume. Like who else at the top 3, top 5 have Hergovich on their CV? Do you understand? Someone coming from like that sort of generation. So I think the Hergovich makes sense. Hopefully, there's a belt on the line for that fight as well, because the belts will fragment or whatever. So I think that makes the most sense. And stylistically, I like that fight for him. You understand? I think it would challenge him enough for us to see where him and Ben Davison are at. But at the same time, because of some of the deficiencies I see in Hergovich's game, I think some of the stuff that him and Ben have been working on will probably shine through, like punch him through the target, etc., etc. So I think that's a good fight for him, man. Fight Hergovich, get the belt, and then try and go undisputed with either Fury or Usyk. And to be honest, if he can get through that, who else is that to fight? Just retire, man. After you fight those 3 people.
He says he's got 5 years left in him, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. After that, like
I think he could hang for the next crop of heavyweights that are going to be coming through. It doesn't look like he's slowing down one bit, and it's a testament to his professionalism as well. Like
100% stays in the gym.
Even when he's in between camps, the guy don't step out of the gym. He's always in there. Looks like his diet is always in check. He's taking things serious, and when you come into the sport with that sort of professionalism, complete opposite to what Fury is, you can last, especially in the heavyweight division, where you know, like size and strength kind of covers a lot of things. It's like even if he becomes a bit slower, etc., he can still last well into his later 30s and potentially even early 40s because of the way he is. So I don't see him aging anytime soon. Yeah.
Chris, who do you want to see AJ in with next?
I want to see him fight Hergovich. I think it'd be a good scalp to take if he could get that under his belt, for sure. But also, I feel like certain fighters are more made for AJ to knock out, if you know what I mean. So I feel like a few of the names that I feel like he'd stop, names like Wilder, for sure. I feel like he stops Daniel Dubois. Unfortunately, Jerome Miller is just out of the picture.
That guy's too fat, man. I think he stops. What's his name as well? Joyce.
I think he stops Joyce. And I think he stops Dylan White. The issue is a lot of these fighters now have bad reputations, and so beating a lot of these guys does nothing for his CV at all. One tough fight that he could try and kind of win back a lot of fans is, even though I wouldn't like him to get a payday, is another Ruiz fight. If Ruiz was to, let's say, have another good fight, a good performance, obviously we know he hasn't fought in some time. He could go to the US, knock him out, and help prep for another fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Help build up momentum.
I only want to see that fight if AJ knocks him out, man. If not, just keep that fight.
But that's I feel like he would knock him out at this point in time. I feel like
it's kind of like business, isn't it? Because I feel like the reason why it's taken AJ to kind of come back into the fray of things so much, everyone's kind of been saying that he ain't the same fighter since the Ruiz fight, etc., etc. And I think it's because mentally, with the second fight, he didn't go in there to kind of conquer his demons and just flat out bully Ruiz the way I personally think he should have. He went there, he played it safe, kept him at a distance. Don't get me wrong, he boxed well when he won the fight, and that's the most important thing. But it's like he didn't get it back in blood, and that kind of loomed over him for a period of time. And for him to go and do that fight now, it would just be like the icing of the cake on this AJ resurgence. But I still think stylistically, Ruiz might give him problems because AJ struggles against smaller fighters with fast hands. And it's like weighing up the risk and the business side of things. Would there be that much demand of that fight with Ruiz being kind of washed up?
No, them Americans would love to see that again, man.
No. The reason being is Ruiz hasn't fought in 2 years. He hasn't had a good performance since AJ won. The Americans have forgot about him. If you ask Americans about Andy Ruiz, they've definitely forgotten about him. He's done that to himself. So that's why I don't think he's an option, because he's not an option for many fighters, because he's pricing himself out of fights and he hasn't fought in a while. So what's the point of putting up all this money and going after him if he's not doing anything to warrant it? You're just giving him payday for nothing. Like you still got to earn, if you want to go and fight the top 10, you still got to earn that opportunity. You can't just be a former unified champion and then just walk back in after 2 years. You got to fight your way back in, and he's not a big star. Like, no, let's be real, if Andy Ruiz does his own type of headline show, it's not going to sell out because no one's a big fan of him like that. So that's why I don't think he's an option. But I agree with you. I agree with the main thing. I think it should be Hrgović, get that vacant IBF belt, become 3-time heavyweight world champion. And Hrgović is a really good fighter as well. I think that would be one of the more better wins. That would be up there with the Wallin win when it comes to it, because I appreciate the Wallin win. I think that's a good name that he has on his CV.
Yeah, people are downplaying it, man. That's a good win.
And now Hrgović as well. I think that would be another good one.
Hrgović is very good. I think it will be easy work for AJ stylistically. He always put anyone in front of AJ that's around his size and quite easy to hit, and he's just going to flourish in that aspect. So I think it'll be an easy work. Hrgović is one of these funny ones where his style, I think, suits sparring a lot more than actual being in the ring, where because he's so big, durable, he could kind of push his will in sparring, and that's why we've heard so many stories about him in sparring and him giving a lot of people problems. But I just see in the ring itself, I think it's easy work for AJ, but it's still a very good name on his CV.
I want to see the Wilder fight. 100%.
100%. I still think,
Wilder's so washed now.
Regardless of what's happening to him, I feel like it would do so much for his public perception, right? To stop Wilder and to knock him out. And the thing is, I feel like he has the ability to do that. Fury knocked him out, but it didn't really feel the same way. Fury stopped him the first time, and the other time he knocked him out, but it wasn't like a real highlight reel knockout. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a highlight reel. He kind of had him up against the ropes and he battered him until he fell to the ground and couldn't get back up, and the ref had to stop it. But I feel like AJ has the ability to kind of shock everyone and just completely starch him out.
Yeah.
His name frozen there.
Name's frozen and Depo got kicked out. Oh man, but yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that fight, I mean, business-wise, it will still generate demand, in my opinion, and it would just be the perfect icing on the cake for AJ. Oh, and especially if they could somehow get that fight over in America, for AJ to kind of go there and, you know, because his first fight in America didn't go to plan, for him to go back and kind of correct his wrongs, he would do really well for his stock, especially after this Ngannou fight now, where he's kind of got the American attention again, and for him to go over there and kind of deal with their hero, perfect for us. As a Brit, like, nothing would make me happier.
Yeah, because it's a weird one, because I feel like as a fighter these days, it's not about fighting the best. It's about fighting the fights that everyone wants to see. Now,
and creating the right narratives, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all about narratives. And I guess it's always been about narratives, but even more so now. The only difference is that with social media, we're open to a lot more possibilities and a lot more truths than we were. Because think about it, when boxing was on Sky Sports, maybe ITV, that's all you had. You had your terrestrial channels that were feeding you. You had the newspapers. People weren't really on forums, and then everything else was word of mouth. Most opinions are going to be formed, just regurgitated from what they saw in the tabloids.
100%.
Whereas now we've got our own niche groups. We can speak to different people. We can say what we want to say. Yeah, like we can form like our own truths. We can't say our truth is the only truth. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but like there's all sorts of different narratives and all sorts of different subsections of fans and opinions. So it all matters. I've seen people. There's a couple people in the comments saying that Wilder's crap, Wilder's garbage, but we know what beating Wilder would do or knocking out Wilder would do for his stock. Do you know what I mean? There's always been this AJ versus Wilder thing going on in the background. For me, it's never been competitive. I was even upset it was going to be Joseph Parker that ended up kind of showing everyone that, look, this isn't as good of a win as Fury made it out to be. But even in then, narrative spun again. Fury gave him the blueprint. Fury knocked him senseless. He's not the same fighter anymore since Fury beat him. Do you know what I mean? All sorts of nonsense narrative. So it's like right now, I was so happy when AJ said, "Who do you guys want me to fight? I'll fight who the fans want me to fight." That's such an important statement, because if he picks a tough niche fighter, no one's gonna care. It's gonna be, who is this guy? Imagine he goes to fight Caballero now. We know Caballero is his sparring partner, but we know Caballero is very, very tough.
But bro, they're very tough, and he's got his next fight could potentially set him up for a decent career. Like,
and so if he was to go in against someone like Caballero and struggle, people would be like, "Oh, he's gone back to where he was. I told you he hadn't changed. I told you he was blah blah blah." So it's like, okay, who do you guys want me to fight? Who do you guys want me to fight?
Yeah.
The issue we have here is that AJ wants to stay active. He wants to be active. He wants to continue on from where he was last April up until now. And it's like, within that space, because of the kind of guy AJ is, he's going to fight a tough opponent before he fights Fury. We know that. We know there's going to be someone who potentially gives him problems up until that fight. And anything can happen. Nothing's promised. We've seen it happen. It happened with Ruiz. We're fighting Ruiz. It happened with fighting Usyk. AJ is willing to take a tough fight and risk, a bigger payday, or risk his reputation in order to aspire to be the best. I think when we look back on AJ's career, the timing of when he fought people, he's going to get a lot of respect. But for now, like, people are still so disrespectful. They're saying he fought Parker the Parker that they thought that he thought wasn't the same as the one now. Like, this is a different Parker now. This is a new improved Parker. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. There's nothing in Parker that shows, like, the old Parker for me would still get these same results. I think the old
100%.
Parker would still. I think he would still get these same results. Zhang may be a bit more questionable, but you have to remember the old Parker hadn't been knocked out.
Yeah,
The
but
whole
I
Parker
think
still-
I think if you're going life and death with Dillian White and he's really dropping you as well. He's Parker used to be quite sloppy and he wasn't really that great with using his jab. And I think what
yeah,
we've seen from Andy Lee is he's tightened up. He hasn't completely shifted Parker. He's tightened
Yeah.
up that jab. He's made it better. He's made him using his footwork much better.
Yeah.
He's a bit more better than other heavyweights with it. So I don't think he would still get those wins. He would still be tough. I just think that extra thing that Andy Lee's added to him is what's pushed him over the line.
I personally, I definitely admit that Andy Lee's definitely made him a better boxer overall. I just don't think to the point where I think he would have always had the ability to beat Wilder. I feel like he would have always had that similar ability. I don't think Wilder's a great boxer, and I've always thought, you know, Joseph Parker has always been a bit of a crude but decent and tricky fighter to beat. We saw it against AJ. Yes, AJ won, and I thought it was a comfortable win, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy win for AJ. AJ didn't have it his own way the entire fight. And so to now say that, okay, no, you got to fight this. Yeah, fair enough. He might be better now, and it'll be good to see the fight now. But there's also elements that, for me, he's been dropped and knocked out a lot since from then. And no matter how you look at it, that causes long-term damage. You get knocked out once, it's a bit easier to get knocked out again. Do you know what I mean? And even watching the Zhang fight, a lot of us were like, survive, please survive. We were scared he was going to get knocked out because we know he's got it in him to get knocked out, to get starched out. We've seen it. And yeah, no, it was he's improved a lot, and it wouldn't be a bad fight to make. But to kind of dismiss the Parker that AJ fought because of his recent results, for me, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we've covered the two fights, and obviously we're going to go on to the next portion of the cards, which was there was also some controversy on the card. But before that, let me just go through some of the comments because we had a lot of comments on it. So Chris says, don't forget, lads, the Furies, when they fought Ngannou's toughest opponent ever, but when AJ destroys Ngannou, he's a novice. According to them, he was always a novice, and Fury should be embarrassed. So yeah, the backtracking that we were talking about, that we're seeing. Richard Hutchinson says, we need to see AJ versus Fury. This needs to happen for boxing fans and bring boxing together. But Dapper needs to calm down and give respect to Wilder's knockout power, but respects to Ngannou for stepping in the ring. He also says, I respect Ngannou's story and his upbringing from Cameroon to boxing. Yeah, but I'm happy that Ngannou's got his. We've said this multiple times. I'm happy that Ngannou's got his payday and he's got 30 million in the bank from boxing. Like, he deserves it, especially like when you hear his story, you're happy for him that he's got this money. AJ got his confidence, form, and hunger back with Ben Davison. Yeah, that's the thing. I think with Ben Davison, all he did was just marry the two. Like I said, he just married two aspects of AJ together, which is the fundamental side that AJ is so committed to, which is the straight punches, movement, everything just being as textbook as possible. But then also the athleticism, and he just put that into AJ's head, and AJ's now sort of raring to go, and that's why you're seeing him with much more confidence in his
The link
fight.
up makes sense, man. It makes too much sense.
I think it's a confidence he had to instill back into him, because with the Usyk fight, it's like, and don't get me wrong, he landed a lot of punches, but he didn't have his way in being as accurate as usual, with Usyk being quite elusive and whatnot. And I feel like he had confidence issues from that, where he hasn't been punching with the same intent, because that loss there obviously lingered over him and affected him mentally. But I think Ben Davison's job here has been as much mental as it has been with making him technically more sound as well. And I think he's done a terrific job, to be honest. You feel like AJ is back in the way he's.
I also feel like he had more success when he wasn't so much worried about what was coming back. That first fight, like, not even just Usyk, in terms of Franklin, even Hernandez in some spells, because he's overthinking about what's coming back. He doesn't get to put as much intensity in his punches that he normally would. As you can see, this Ngannou fight, like, there was so much force behind his punches because he didn't really care about what was coming back, if that makes sense.
There were times he was right in range with Ngannou, and he would pull and land the right, and it's like you could see how the difference in not worrying about what's coming back has been installed into him. For him to do that against Ngannou, who's a much more hard hitter than Wallin or Franklin or Hellenius, like it's crazy how he's installed that back into him. And it just shows you how much confidence is able to transform a fighter.
If people keep talking about AJ Fury, I'm guessing obviously the consensus is Usyk just has AJ's number. But I really want to see that fight again, man. I want to see it again. I want to see a third fight.
Yeah, but yes,
if the demand there, it isn't there for me, to be honest. It's like
I think Usyk will retire after Fury. You remember Usyk's also getting older. He's not like some spring chicken. Like, you know,
he's like 37 now. So
yeah, and with his style, age does matter quite a bit. Like, you need your legs, especially. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Usyk's one goal is to unify all of the belts, and then he's retiring. I don't see him really continuing. I think he's done.
There's no need to fight AJ a third time. He's beaten him twice. He has nothing to prove.
Exactly. Like there won't be any demand for that fight or any pressure for that fight either. I don't think. It's like, relinquish your belts, go off into the sunset. You've done everything you possibly can do in the sport, and just let the rest of the heavyweights start picking up the belts again.
Yeah. Richard says Fury was strong against Usyk. Usyk's amateur record was high class boxing, movement, technique, and high IQ. So when we do our when we do our Fury Usyk preview, please tune in and let us know your thoughts also then. And Fury lost his confidence, he lost his hunger and touch with boxing. Money, trash talk, kids, wife, Paris, and family life got to his head. I don't know about family life. I don't think that.
Yeah, let's leave that stuff out of it, man.
I don't think that gets to your head. I think he's always had an issue before everything else is the substance abuse, the
lack of
just doesn't live the life.
Yeah, he just doesn't live the life. Yeah. He bought into his own hype, boy.
And then Good Antics said Fury can't punch, which is why he couldn't knock out Wilder, which is why he couldn't knock out Ngannou, and Wilder's garbage. And Q95 says knocking out Wilder would be a pointless exercise for AJ because everyone will just say AJ aged him out. To be fair, with any if you're a guy who's as criticized as any boxers, as most fighters are, there are certain fighters that are always going to get criticized in the limelight.
Exactly. Just
whatever opponent they have, they're going to get criticized. He beats Hrgovic. Hrgovic didn't fight anyone. He hasn't proven much. He beats Zhang. Zhang's old. He beats Parker. Oh, well, he already did it once, so Parker's not that great, and Parker's been dropped quite a bit. There's always something to another. He beats Fury. He aged out Fury. He beats Usyk for a third time. He aged him out. Whatever. Like, it's that's life. That's how boxing.
There's always going to be something. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 second. Okay, the next fight on the card was Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. Did you guys catch that fight?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay, so there's some controversy behind it because a lot of people are saying that Nick Ball got robbed. I'm going to give my take. I watched that fight. I was scoring it. I thought Nick Ball was very fortunate he didn't get a point taken off him because he was very dirty in that fight, like very, very dirty. Obviously, the ref is going to be on his side because the pockets run deep. There was a knockdown that Nick Ball suffered that didn't get classed as knockdown. They just said it was a trip because he came in, Ray Vargas angled out and caught him with the right hook and then moved. And it wasn't one of those like, dropped him, but it was a flash knockdown because you're off balance. That didn't get caught. Yeah. And he lost the first 6 rounds comprehensively, in my opinion. He couldn't get close to Vargas, but then because of his relentlessness, he ended the last 6 better. But I still think he didn't win every round of the last 6. I think he won like at least 4 or 5, and Ray Vargas definitely picked one. And if you look at the scoring behind it, I felt like Ray Vargas definitely did more than enough to get a draw, which I thought was quite fair. But I thought Nick Ball was the one that was more fortunate to get the draw, because if he had a point off, then it would have been even worse for him. But Adam, what were your thoughts on the scoring of the fight? And the
You
fight
know
itself?
what? You've hit the absolute nail on the head for me there. I completely agree. I think the first 6 rounds were a complete shutdown. And I thought, this is just going to be a fight where we might see 12 rounds to 0. Like, that's how comfortable it was for Vargas. The robbery talks are nonsense. I mean, credit to Ball because he didn't let up and he was just relentless. Like, the tenacity for him to keep going. But there was a knockdown that should have counted, which didn't count. And I think a draw at the end was a very fair result, because I didn't see Nick Ball winning all of the last 6 rounds either. There was one round in between, which I had Vargas winning, I think. And so, yeah, I thought the draw was a very fair result. The shouts of, robbery, whatever, what Frank Warren done after that in the ring, I thought was quite classless as well, for him to do that. I think he felt like he could do that because of his backing with Turkey in Saudi and the crowd that was there. Like, Vargas was really an outsider going into there. And for him to try pull that off and say...
I didn't catch that. What did you do?
I was just saying, like, it's a complete robbery, and Nick Ball won.
I thought Vargas won that fight, can't lie.
And this was like in the ring, like right after. It wasn't like a presser or everything. It was straight away the post interview. I thought it was a bit classless for him to do that. So I thought it was a fair result. Wouldn't be upset if they ran that back.
Dapo?
Yeah, Neem and I spoke about this yesterday. I thought Vargas won. I thought Ball was lucky to get a draw. I thought I scored it 7-5, 7 for Vargas, 5 for Ball. And yeah, I'm not hearing any robbery talk. I don't see a robbery. I thought Ball actually struggled quite a lot in that fight. I expect if Vargas can look at that fight back and look at how successful he was in the earlier rounds, I think he can build on that and probably win a rematch, can't lie. Because Ball got those rounds back on just pure intensity. But if Vargas can kind of come up with a game plan to manage that a bit better and just win a few more rounds, he wins the fight. So yeah, that's just how I see that fight.
And Chris, what were your thoughts on the Ray Vargas Nick Ball fight?
I'm going to be very, very, very real. Yeah. I didn't score it, right? I didn't score it at all. But watching it, yeah, it was such a frustrating fight to watch, because I felt like obviously Ball was trying to make up for the difference in height and reach, and Vargas was doing everything in his power to kind of maintain it. I wish I'd scored it round by round. I think it's because of the environment I was in. It was a bit hard to do that. From what I saw, it looked like Ball was pushing a lot of the action. He was the one who was trying to make the fight. Obviously, he was struggling. He was always reaching and stuff. So just based on a glance, without scoring the fight itself, for me, it looked like Ball might have done enough. But I definitely understand about maybe a point deduction might have been needed. Taking into account the knockdown, I thought Nick Ball should have won. But was it 1 or was it 2?
2
knockdowns. I thought Nick Ball should have probably won. But I'm not mad at the result of being a draw. I definitely don't think it's a robbery for sure.
Yeah, that's that same as we kind of said, is that this whole robbery talk is a bit of a nonsense, that it wasn't as once. I think a lot of people get carried away by knockdowns and they think that determines whether a fighter won or not, and they weren't really looking at that fight properly. So yeah, but I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch, but at the same time, I think both fighters have better options on the table. Like, I think Ray Vargas, and he needs to take note from Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker, you need to be more active. The reason you let that fight get competitive was because your gas tank gave out on you after 6 rounds and you weren't as sharp as possible because you've been fighting once a year. So you can't do that, come back into this good big fight and then think you're going to be unaffected by it. So, because also remember his last fight was at 130 against Oshaki Foster, which he lost.
Yeah.
So then he had to cut the weight back down again on short notice and then fight. And that's a whole litany of issues. I've always thought at their best, Nick Ball always loses to Ray Vargas. Ray Vargas just loves this type of fighter. Short, has to do a lot to work, and he just can just keep his range, outbox him, and do what he's been doing for those first 6 rounds. But yeah, there's a lot to be desired from both fighters, in my opinion. But they've got other options in front of them. Like I would love to see Nick Ball against Ray Ford. Ray Ford looked amazing in his last fight, the way he got that clutch last round, last minute knockout. So I'd love to see that as well. The last fight I'm going to come on to, obviously, Israel Madrimov becoming world champion. He looked great. I mean, he looked like he showed on that night why Eddie Hearn signed him, and in his 11th fight becomes WBA world champion. And Kurbanov, he's a guy that I felt always was quite fortunate when it came to certain decisions, but he was undefeated, and Madrimov put him down and stopped him, and that was a performance to behold. And I think the 154 division should be on notice because guys like Virgil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu, etc., those would be great fights to make. Adam, your thoughts on Israel Madrimov, since you're our expert on Eastern Europeans?
Yeah, the Uzbeki battery farm delivers once again. The amount of fighters coming out from that region is crazy, and I think he had a punch-perfect performance in that aspect. I think there's so many fights for him available at 154. Great finish to that particular fight, and I think he's going to give people some problems in that division. Very good signing by Matchroom, and very excited to see how he goes on.
Chris, your thoughts?
Great fight, great fighter. It's really my first time having a close-up look at him without it being highlights, but yeah, no, I was really impressed, really impressed. He looked strong, looked powerful. Someone, I can't remember who it was. Someone described him as like Triple G Canelo hybrid.
Him a bit as well.
Yeah, I think it might have been. I think it was Ade, and I really see it. I really do see it. I feel like he's got a lot to offer, man. He's got a lot to offer. I'd like to see who he'd be in against next. But I like his fighting style. For me, it was my first real look at him, and I just thought, yeah, this is entertaining. This is impressive. Who knows? Maybe it's the dawn of the Eastern Europeans again. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Dapper?
Yeah, Eddie's getting a little stable here, isn't he? Like that's a very good fight to have. And yeah, I was really impressed. I was really impressed. But yeah, I echo what everyone says. Like genuinely, I think it's a very good look for him, and congratulations to him, man.
Yeah, look, I think we're gonna end it there. We've talked for 2 hours because there's so much this entire fight card. But look, there have been 700 live viewers at a peak. Right now, we've got 700 live viewers. Thank you to every single one of you that have joined in and have watched us. And as always, please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, go and subscribe to our channel, the Touchline Community, where we also have podcasts on Tottenham, football, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man U. So go check those stuff out, and also the weekly boxing podcast. And follow us on Twitter at Ringside Fracas, because we always post, even when we're doing pods in between. We're always posting about certain things, our opinions on certain things, and facts, figures, whatnot. So it's all, and we always love to interact and engage with more listeners and more people online. We always love to hear what you guys think about. So please follow us there, and also please keep subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Like, comment, all of the good stuff. And look, we're going to be back here again next week, and we'd love to have you back And please, like I said, within the week, give us your thoughts, your questions, anything, and we'll answer them as the week goes along. And again, this was one of our best ever pods to date, and we hope to continue this going forward. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Peace out.
Peace. Bye.